Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races, such as the Daytona 24, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR schedule, such as the Daytona 500. We have events from disciplines all across the racing world, from the Indianapolis 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events utilize iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against every driver taking part. And as every race progresses, watch and feel the track change with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
This is where drivers get faster. At Motorsport Simworld, it's not just about racing, it's about refining your craft. Casual sessions with your mates to competitive leagues and unforgettable corporate events, plus coaching that helps you find time where it matters. Train smarter, drive better at Motorsport Simworld.
Welcome one, welcome all once again to SimSpeed TV, an incredible season of GT racing we've had so far in the Motorsport Simworld GT3 Open Championship by Premier Endurance League. We're here for round 3 of the series at Road America in virtual Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, a classic American sports car course that is sure to provide some pretty fantastic action over the course of the night's running. Bringing it to you live here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. It's me, Reese Gardner, with David Haynes alongside me in the commentary box, and Peter Baxter joining us for pit reports and insider info and such. Jay Kennedy producing behind the scenes. David, I've been looking forward to this round of the championship for a while. This has been a pretty consistently fantastic series with some crazy action throughout, and I think Road America is going to induce a lot more of that.
Sports car racing certainly feels like it's had its moment in the last sort of decade or so. Customer GT3 racing, prototype racing on the rise, great format and formula, bringing big grids, even grid bids all over the place. We are going to find Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. They love cheese up here. They love sausages. So I reckon I'd love it too. They don't mind a beer or two either. And they've got one of the greatest racetracks to be found anywhere in the world. It is the National Park of Speed. It goes all through the forests here with great spectator areas, but also with 3 really fast straights. The front straight into turn 1, the run downhill from 3 into a sharply downhill braking zone at turn 5, underneath the Sargento Cheese Bridge on the way, and then you've got that challenging knuckle whitening kink at turn 11 that leads you on to another stretch through the forest to an overtaking opportunity at turn 12 Canada Corner. This can be a high time on throttle, high fuel consumption, but also high slipstreaming racetrack.
Absolutely. High average speeds. Every time we go here, I like to say that it's America's Monza just because of the long straights, the heavy braking zones, the amount that the slipstream factors into lap time and strategy. And speaking of strategy, I think this is a good time to bring you in, Peter. We have a 2-hour race ahead of us and a 65% fuel tank restriction, which will likely bring us 3 pit stops from the drivers. Safety car intervention may or may not change some of that, but what are you expecting from tonight?
So I'm expecting tonight that the 65% fuel tank restriction will certainly require 3 stops minimum. I don't think there's a way that you can get away with 2 stops, even with multiple safety cars, because of the way the tank is. There's about a 15-minute window from the start or the finish of the race that you've got to play with that 65%. So early safety car within the first 2-3 laps, don't stop. After 15 minutes, I think it's all open, and then you go in for your first stop, and then you're pretty much on a critical stop sequence until the end of the race. So if we see that first safety car, I think it's going to mix up strategies. If we don't get a safety car until about mid-race, and I know in the limited series they've got a safety car right on the verge of the second pit stop, which was very, very considerate for all of the drivers, not that they planned it that way, but the timing of the safety car will really determine the strategies tonight, if there is one.
Yeah, certainly will. Well, before we get into the racing action, we have to think about the championship standings coming out of round 2 at Adelaide. The 2-race format certainly brought quite a bit of chaos, but Damon Woods continues to lead the way from Zach Rattray White, with Reese Wakefield, Eli Donaldson and Dean Mackay rounding out the top 5 in the championship standings. It was a bit of a difficult round for One Performance Racing, and so their drivers have fallen down the order a little bit, but it is still only early runnings in the series, David. There's still plenty that can change.
Yeah, for sure. So we're looking forward to what that means for us here at Road America. Damon Woods up front from Zach Rattray White, and a 2-hour race, and then factoring in that fuel cap and that it is often a high fuel consumption lap here, it will keep the strategy very interesting, and we've luckily got Pete to keep an eye on that for us as well.
We absolutely do. We also have plenty of time to go through the grid. Damon Woods, our championship leader, has put it back on pole position, but Mackay has joined him on the front row. Only 600ths in it for pole position. That is quite tight between the 2 Aston Martins on the front row. In third place is Marino Morella, joined by Byron Pierce, the 2 Eclipse Aston Martins locking out that second row. And then also for Eclipse, Zach Rattray White, second place in the championship. But he's got Campbell Adams alongside him, a very rapid man in that Team Max Boost Lamborghini. That is your third row. Marcus Watson starts P7, first of our Mustangs in the field for Project 36. And then AITX Revolution E-Racing has Isaac Curtis starting out of P8. Stuart Ellis is starting 9th. One Performance Racing's top competitor for the moment, Daniel McCrowan, also for Team Max Boost, is going to be starting his Corvette out of the top 10, David.
So then 11th on the grid, Jackson Dial in 12th, Kane Ryder in the Lamborghini. Eli Donaldson, the Porsche in its latest GT3 spec, from 13th place. Mustang for Matt Bailey in 14th. Sam Chapman's Mercedes is in 15th, then Jet Saragi from 16th with the Lamborghini right there. Sam Sutton 17th in the Aston Martin. Alan Dawson 18th, Porsche 911 GT3. Daniel Yeaman 19th, and Ethan Bass 20th.
Good to see Ethan here once again for Logitech G Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport. Trent Allen will start out at 21st alongside Ben Jeffrey. The Aston, of course, a very popular choice for the start of the season, though the recent balance of performance changes have not favoured it. Aidan Rankin and Adam Jepson have got our 12th row of the grid locked up. Then it's Lockhart Brownlee for ODBM, sharing the 13th row with Mark Hilly. It's going to be Ryan Bell and Trent Stapleton in 27th and 28th, the 2 Pro Dive Racing Mustangs sharing that one. And there's Jack Bird and Corey Bennett, one of the only Acuras in this field, starting out at 30th.
We find Benjamin Wilder in 31st. McLaren for Clint Smith, 32nd on the grid. Owen Coleman in 33rd. Jordan Pianazzola in 34th. Brock Kelly, 35th. Ferrari for Paul Heckel in 36th on the grid. Last driver with a qualifying time is Rick Provenzale in 37th, because Dylan Shepherd and that Audi R8 does not have one. Neither does Harry Dodds or Matt Webber.
Yes, and then we have Jack Stone, Leith McClymont and Kurt Chapman rounding out the rest of our field there. And well, we'll see what Dylan Shepherd can do. Despite some great pace at Adelaide, the race did not go his way. Another driver to look out for will be Jet Saragi, starting out at 16th place. Saragi showed some incredible pace at Adelaide. He managed to fight his way from the back to the front of the grid effectively twice from memory. Just insane pace from the Lamborghini driver. So, reminder of the format. We've got 120 minutes of racing ahead of us with a 65% fuel tank restriction, and Peter was pretty sure that the drivers will definitely need 3 pit stops at least. I think with the restriction, we're pretty much locked into that, but when those pit stops are taken remains to be seen as the drivers start their formation lap behind the iRacing Porsche safety car. Peter, you're back. I understand you may have some information from us from through the field.
So just a couple of points from qualifying. I noticed during qualifying, a lot of the teams were trying to group up together. The Team Max Boost team, the Eclipse team, they were running together as cars, groups of 3 and 4 in qualifying to try and get that ultimate lap. And as we talked about before in the GT3, you've got to do about 3 or 4 laps before you get the premium heat in the tyres to get your ultimate lap time. Team Max, I talked to them before the race. They said look out for Eclipse, and Eclipse were running in a group of 4. Anyway, I just come back. I went and had a chat with Damon Woods after his qualifying effort there. Sorry, not Damon, Dean Mackay, after his P2 in qualifying there. Felt he left a little bit on the table. I asked him about grouping up there. He said he did try the draft, but he said whilst the draft was giving him a little bit on the straights, he felt that he was losing a little bit in the corners. So when you think about it, guys, it's only 0.1 of a second between Damon Woods and Dean Mackay there. And if Dean tried that and was losing a little bit of time in the corner, has Dean got what it takes? He's given me a hint. He just wants to just settle in for the race and not really challenge it too hard at the start. But we'll see how it goes. And then, as you just mentioned, we've got some fast guys like Kane Ryder, Jet Saragi down there at the back that are going to try and want to get to the front, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Great info there, Peter. And, David, what all of that tells me is, I think it's a smart move from Dean Mackay to not go for those kamikaze dives this early on. It is a long race, and I think the most important thing will be trying to stay in the slipstream of the cars in front of you. I think if you're able to at least do that, you should be able to look after your tyres, look after your fuel usage as well. A little bit of lift and coast never hurt anyone here at Road America.
Yeah, we're going to see who is sort of strategy driven in the early stint of this race, who takes that first stint trying to manage their fuel, trying to extend a little bit, versus who qualified deeper in the field, or maybe even without a qualifying time, is looking to try to cut through early. And then, of course, the team game always an aspect to look out for. No one's got the endurance lights on the Aston Martin, but we've got endurance lights on the Lamborghini.
Indeed. Mildly disappointing not to see those endurance lights on the Aston, but we'll have to wait and see what more is to be said about the pace. That is the most important thing here today. Just coming past 4 p.m. in sim time. We should be all wrapped up with this just past 6 p.m. in sim time, which means the sun should still be up. But whether or not we'll be seeing those lights come on later on remains to be seen. Nice track temperature, 26 Celsius. That is right on the money for some solid tyre performance in the early half of the race. They will need to make sure they get those tyres heated up, because Road America, there's a lot of space between the corners, and so not much of an opportunity to get your tyres warmed up. They will form too wide as they find their way onto the start-finish straight. The pace car will pull away and find its way into pit lane. And now we just wait for the call of the green flag. Dean Mackay will be looking to his right at Damon Woods as they find their way up to the starter's flag stand. When does Damon Woods decide to put the power down? Right now, as the green flag flies and the Eclipse duo behind are going to try to follow him, as Mackay wasn't quite as on the money for that start. A clean run into turn 1 is crucial here, but it's a big dive there from Marina Morella and Zach Rattray-White. Remember, Rattray-White's trying his best to stay in the championship fight with Damon Woods, so he needs the result here today. He might get a little tap up the rear from Marcus Watson. The Mustang finding its way up to 4th out of the first couple of turns. For the moment, seeing some jostling about in the field, but no one really falling down hard, apart from maybe Alan Dawson, who finds himself in 42nd and last coming out of the first lap. Mackay has fallen back to 6th place, and this is where things really get leery, turn 5. But there's lots of space being given throughout the field. I'm not seeing much chaos erupt.
Yeah, so there was a bit of contact back there. Alan Dawson went backwards into the gravel at turn 1, seems to have stayed out of the wall. Meanwhile, up front, Marcus Watson, that big Mustang, cutting its way through the field at every braking zone, and that's off.
Oh, that's not ideal. That looks to be Eli Donaldson that has come a cropper. Dawson makes his way past him, and so now it's 2 Porsches bringing up the rear after problems on lap 1. Incredible pace from Marcus Watson, who's now made his way into 2nd spot in the Project 36 Mustang. Some really good early race pace as we get our first Motorsport Simworld replay of the evening. We will see what happened to Dawson here behind the Max Boost Lamborghinis. Was this a solo error, or did he have help? Looks like the rear end just went on him. That's a bizarre slide.
He just touched the grass a little bit, boys, so just as he come out of turn 6 there, he's just those right-hand side tyres just touched the grass and then spun the push around.
It looks like Dawson just on the cold tyres, a little bit out wide, a little bit of marbles out there, mayhaps, and just no tyre temperature built up yet.
Oh, Watson's around. Oh dear. At the end of the first lap, Marcus Watson has spun the Project 36 Mustang out of 2nd. And now he will fall down the field. That gives a lot of breathing room to Damon Woods up the front, as Byron Pierce has made his way up to 2nd now, ahead of his teammates Zach Rattray-White and Marina Morella. It is an all Aston Martin top 5, bookended by Dean Mackay. This is what happened to too much curb. Oh, and that was incredible, avoiding action by the Eclipse Aston Martin there. Fortunately, no one else involved in that, but Marcus Watson is going to have a long road of recovery ahead of him, David.
Yes, indeed. It's a long race. You can get back in this race, no doubt, but just a shame to be going forward and then coming back, and the other is saw in the field. Rear also lets go. The car's in a bit of a slide there before it touches the grass as well. This Porsche's looking like a bit of a handful before the tyre temperature comes in.
Yeah, I believe that was the incident that Peter was referring to just before. Meanwhile, a bit further back in the field, seeing some jostling about. This is quite the interesting fight. A bit further back in the field, car 981 of Harry Dodds, currently in 28th position. He's made his way up 11 spots, and he's not the only one. Seems like Kurt Chapman is also up to 11 spots. Brock Kelly in 25th is 10 places up from where he started. So some not ideal qualifying performances from drivers who we expected to be a bit further up, but they are quickly making good work of it in the race.
Henry's in that group. There's Trent Stapleton, number 24, currently sitting 27. I found out before the race, this is his first ever race at Road America on the iRacing platform.
Seriously?
Absolutely seriously. So he's racing the Open Series in Premier Endurance League. First ever time he's raced Road America on iRacing. And I said, have you raced it somewhere else? Like, do you know the track? And he goes, yes, a number of years ago I raced it on one of the other platforms, but he said, it's just not a track that I come to.
Fair enough. Well, we'll see how Trent Stapleton goes along as we've almost reached the first 5 minutes of the race on board with Mark Hilly. 19th spot at the moment, 7 places up. He's looking at the back of Aidan Rankin in car 371. Just ahead of them, Trent Allen, and then about a second's gap or so, maybe more, to Dan Yeaman, who's keeping that charge going for Logitech G-Orbit Drop Bear with Sam Sutton to round out your top 15. Lots of slipstream on your way down the straight to turn 5. Kane Ryder trying to go for it on Jet Saragi, just about. Max Boost teammates nearly make contact.
Well, Lamborghinis together here, plenty of V10 action to be had. No endurance lights on these ones. Someone else has got them.
Yes, indeed. Max Bruce not the only Lamborghinis in the field, as Yeaman sees it all to play for ahead of him here. It's got to be difficult this early on in a long race if you feel like you have the pace over the drivers ahead of you, but there's really nowhere to slot yourself in and try to work your way forward. You need to wait for the race to get into its rhythm before you start making those moves.
Absolutely, Reece. As we talked about with the fuel restrictions, the first 15 minutes you are stuck in the race. You can't, even if you feel like you're being held up, there's no opportunity for early pitting and undercutting. And that doesn't open up until about minute 16 of this race. So it's a case of fight or stay there with patience. And given that we're 5 minutes into a 2-hour race, I think patience is the right game right now.
Yeah, all about bringing your car in and driving within your limits here in the early stages. The gap will increase a bit between Ryder and Sutton as I see Kurt Chapman descending down the order. Something's gone very wrong for Mr. Chapman. Marino Morella setting the fastest lap of the race thus far in 6th spot. He has got quite a nice slipstream up ahead of him, and it appears our top 3 starting to break away about 1.5 seconds, 1.4 seconds or thereabouts between Rattray White and Mackay at the moment. So in these early stages, David is going to take a look at nice over-under Kurt Chapman. Unfortunately, making a bit of contact with the orbit dropper Aston Martin, getting across the curb and onto the grass, and around he went.
Yeah, top of the hill, Bill Mitchell bench turning in with the right side tyres on the grass, but wasn't being given a whole lot of space that side of the racetrack either. Then turn 5, biggest braking zone on the lap. Downhill, places he can make some moves.
Oh, Jack Bird with the big surprise there as Marcus Watson gets his recovery going in the Project 36 Mustang. It's been a pretty impressive recovery so far from Marcus, now back up to 27th after going almost all the way to the back. And Jack Bird now sees himself under attack by Harry Dodds in the second of the Project 36 Mustangs there. So looks like both Dodds and Watson are keen to move their way forward. The Mustangs are looking very racy this early on in the race, but let's see what more can be done through the kink, the treacherous flat-out right-hander at the far end of the circuit. You have to deal with a bit of aero push through here, even in GT3 cars. And this is going to get a bit intense here, coming down to Canada Corner. Dodds defensive as desperately trying to find a way back through is car 78, but Benjamin Wilder taking advantage of Bird being thrown off his rhythm a little.
Yeah, Mustang in a couple of hands looking good in the big braking zones. The slightly slimmer Aston Martin seems to have a good run towards the end of some of these straights. Picking up pace as the fuel burns off, the tyres continue to come in. Fastest lap of the race, changing hands multiple times, going to Morella, now going to Stuart Ellis. A couple of packs forming, including now led by Harry Dodds there. And this is another case the Mustang looks good on the brakes.
Yeah, it looks like that might have been Matt Webber finding his way past Paul Heckel. Meanwhile, Ryan Bell for ProDive Racing losing a bit of time to his teammate ahead. Bell here running in 27th spot. Stapleton and Watson will continue their fight, and that's what happened to him. That's the reason why he's so far behind, a bit wide out of turn 1. And the gravel trap will get you no matter what, but despite the dirt on his tyres, he's going to try his best to fight here. But Harry Dodds is supreme under braking, and now Ryan Bell sees himself under attack from Benjamin Wilder, who makes up another position in car 334. There's a whole squad of Aston Martins behind trying to make up time, plus Dylan Shepherd, who remember started at the very back of the field.
Taking a look at him, one of the few drivers in the Audi R8 GT3. Interior, near identical to the Lamborghini. The exterior, a fair bit different. The engine, very, very similar. So with Dylan right now, following a whole group of cars, staying that one car length back through the kink where the revs do not dip at all. He's back grab from his shift into 60 right on the exit.
Very much something has happened to Ben Jeffrey. He's currently under attack here from Dodds, and Jeffrey was running in 23rd at the start of this lap. Looks like it's a problem coming out of the carousel. Another one of those corners that just keeps going, and looks like the car was a little unsettled actually. That looked like a minor correction there from Jeffrey.
Yeah, I saw a slide and snap too. So it cost him a little bit, saved it, went out through the gravel, lost a few spots. Now under attack. A few other positions changing hands. New fastest lap goes to someone in your top 3, so they're continuing their breakaway. Morella and Ellis and Mackay look like they have still a chance of hunting down the top 3, but that chance is getting less likely.
Ethan Bass trying to keep himself in the top 20 here, has been under attack from Adam Jepson and Corey Bennett. And Bennett in the Azure NSX, only car of its type in the field from memory. It's, there was a time, as the move is almost made at turn 5, there was a time where the Acura NSX was the car to have in the GT3 class. The balance of power has shifted in the last few iRacing seasons, but it's good to see some drivers still out there making the Acura work.
Gents, I've just come back from a quick chat with Eli Donaldson. I asked him what occurred on that first lap, and he said combination of cold tyres, early throttle, and a little bit of curb. So a bit of everything, just a little bit too eager to start with. He's got they've got a good sense of humour. He's going at it, so he's just on fight back mode.
Info there, Jack Bird, we just saw with a slide coming out of turn 6. Not quite the same thing that happened to Eli Donaldson, but still the rear end is proving quite difficult to deal with at Road America for many of these drivers. It's one of those tracks where you have to trim out that rear downforce for the speed on the straights, and that can make the car quite skatey coming out of a lot of these medium to higher speed corners. On board with Marino Morella, who is running 202s, high 202s, as is our top 3. Zach Rattray White now takes the fastest lap. The pace just keeps coming down.
Yeah, and the time of day being as it is, the track ought to cool off a little bit as we go. So that will also be a factor. They'll keep getting quicker. 4:18 p.m. It's all cool off from here, particularly with a little bit of breeze happening. They need to ride on board. The gear's relatively tall for this Aston Martin. Maybe that helps them keep pulling towards the end of the straight. They don't rev out or string out. They've got gears to keep pulling.
Yes, I believe they have a gear ratio more suited for Le Mans than Road America. Mark Hilly and Trent Allen together in turn 5. And behind them it looks like Adam Jepson making way for Marcus Watson. There's jostling still going on in the pack here. We are not even 15 minutes into this race, so we're very much still in sprint mode for the moment. Aidan Rankin, we'll see if he can take advantage of this battling ahead. Ethan Bass in the Logitech DBM Mustang behind has managed to break free of Bennett, Watson, Jepson, Kelly and Stapleton. So let's see what kind of a run Ethan can start up here. He's really not afraid to use all the curb on the edge of the carousel, through the kink. Not much runoff to deal with at this part of the circuit, and the runoff can't quite be extended. Not only is there a forest behind it, but also a railway line. So it's one of those parts of the circuit that can't really be adjusted for modern safety standards. Still,
would you say the Plymouth subdivision of the Wisconsin and Southern Railroad?
I would say that, in fact. A lot of history in this area. Road America as a permanent circuit, first built in mid-1950s. Side by side between the Max Boost teammates, Daniel McCrohan in the Corvette, passing Jet Saragi in the Lamborghini on the way down the front straight to turn 1.
Now, lads, I'm going to start this next bit with a quote, and the quote is, I need a change of underpants. The driver. Now, last night I drove the Aston Martin in the 3-hour race, like the official, and I can tell you one of the things I found about the Aston Martin, I don't know if you guys have driven it much, But one of the things I found about the Aston Martin was that if you were just a little bit too hot in the corners, it did have a tendency to just let the rear end go. And that's exactly what happened to Ben Jeffrey coming out of the carousel. And that's the guy who needs a change of underpants. Yeah, he's got an hour and 45 minutes to go.
Yeah, we saw another wiggle from Jeffrey there coming out of turn 3 as he's side by side with Harry Dodson to turn 5. We'll get to the apex first and defend from the Mustang. Yeah, very good point about the potential difficulties of driving the Aston here. I mean, Road America, David, I think is one of those circuits where you can deal with a rear end that isn't quite cooperating. You've got plenty of space between the corners to get the car settled, but there's so much distance between the corners. One mistake can obviously set you back.
Yeah, so momentum off a few of the corners becomes important. That's in the slipstream right here behind Aiden Rankin's got no one to help him. I think Rankin's like, all right, well, I'll let the big Mustang go, and then the Huracan completely disappears.
Yeah, quite the vertical footprint that the Mustang has. Kane Ryder, car number 1, recently receiving a 5-second penalty, causing an incident on lap 5. It's not been entirely smooth sailing for Kane. Our race leader, Damon Woods, apparently has the pace right now. That's another new fastest lap of the race now going to car number 3. There was also another problem for Eli Donaldson. He had another spin, and it seems like his car is not quite cooperating when it comes to driving within the limits of the racetrack. He keeps hitting the grass and having minor slides from what I'm seeing on my end. This is a very nice pack indeed. Sam Chapman in the Mercedes up ahead of Daniel McCrohan, Saragi, Ryder and Sutton in tow. Looks like now Sutton has about 4 seconds and change back to Dan Yeaman, who's the leader of the next pack of cars. And remember, all these drivers are fighting just inside the top 15. This is such a big field, David, and such a competitive field. We're seeing drivers who are usually far and away top of the pecking order in other leagues that are struggling to find their way into the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, 4,800 road sports car iRating for Ethan Bass would serve you pretty well in a lot of officials, leagues and championships. He finds himself in 19th place behind this group. Sam Sutton in 15th, 7,000 iRating. It's a pretty comprehensive strength of field here. Sports cars tend to be quite a level playing field where each tenth becomes very difficult to find.
Might be able to find a few tenths in the slipstream here as Sutton goes for the dive on Kane Ryder. Contact made in Canada corner. Ryder won't be letting this one go. He keeps the side-by-side going into Bill Mitchell Bend. Sam Sutton will somehow have to break free of this. Inside line into the final corner will likely give him it in the short term, but Ryder manages to get the late apex at the run out of the corner, but he is not having a good time getting back by Sam Sutton here. This battle is going to continue, and not without a bit of paint trade.
Yeah, here's just a pure drag race. Aston Martin seems to win.
Yeah, I think Ryder let him have that one, but not into the braking zone. Another big hit, and somehow Sutton manages to hold on to it. Kane Ryder, already in trouble with the stewards once this race, may end up hearing from them again, Peter.
Well, no, I don't know. I don't think there was a contact there, and I think at the end of the day that cost Kane more than it cost Sam. But just trying to jump in, boys, because we are now let's talk strategy, right? We are now in the window where if you're being held up by cars in front of you, let's say a good example might be Eli Donaldson. If he's a fast driver but he's being held up by a group of 5 or 10 cars at the back there, he can pit now, but he's on a critical pit stop sequence until the end of the race. But he can use that sequence and he can use those 10 or so free laps that he gets to undercut the cars that he's in front of. So we're in that strategy window now. What I'm seeing though across this race, there's not really anybody that's that stuck. As you just mentioned, it's a pretty top tier field here, and a lot of the guys are almost settled in about where their natural pace is. There's not too many people out of order here, so I'm not expecting too many out of sequence or out of norm pit stops to see from just a strategy perspective for this race.
Yes, assuming that all stays the same, which it rarely does in a championship like this. McCrowan now looking to go for 11th spot on car 11, Sam Chapman, and that looked like a nice move. Nicely done on the way into Canada corner. The Mercedes having to give way for the Corvette. One of only a few in the field, I think, if anything. McCrowan may be the only Corvette. No other Corvettes are coming to mind. Aston versus Aston into the final turn. Mark Hilly versus Trent Allen. And Ethan Bass is loving this. His teammate is giving Trent Allen a run for his money and allowing Ethan to jet up to the back of them in the Mustang. He's going to choose the slipstream of his teammate down the start-finish straight. But can he get close enough for a move into turn one? Doesn't quite look like it. Maybe on the exit of one, he'll have a better time on it.
And then your exit off at turn 3 at the bottom of the hill, incredibly important. Onto the next straight. So you position your rival to a defensive line. You try to come back to that late apex, and it is then a good exit for you. Sure, the right-hand side's where I'd want to be at the end of the straight, underneath the Sargento cheese bridge. Our family's passion is cheese. Sounds a lot like my family.
This battle will keep going into turn 5. Bass with the wide entry into the turn there. Couldn't quite hit the apex, and that's a big slide for Mark Hilly on the exit of the corner. Slows up both Allen and Bass. This battle for 17th is turning into a bit of a slinging match as things stand. Could be a matter of who holds onto their car the best, and have a look at that. The bright red Project 36 Mustang of Marcus Watson says hello.
We've got this many cars this close on pace. Yeah, little moments like that cost you 1 or 2 seconds. Suddenly the next group of cars are all on you. There's only a 2 or 3 second gaps between each pack as we spread out in this first stint. It certainly does help Marcus Watson get a little bit closer. Trent Allen, he wants this though.
That he does. Pulls out of the slipstream on the way down to Canada corner, and I think Hilly might have just lifted off to let him have that one. It's always a difficult situation when you're so close on pace with another driver, or you know, they're slinging those moves on you at every opportunity. Sometimes the better option is to just let them have it in the short term, because you'll easily gain it back later on if you nail your strategy. Behind them, Watson has moved past Bass, so officially back into the top 20 by another possession is Marcus Watson, continuing his frankly impressive recovery from his incident at the end of lap 1.
Yeah, indeed, coming back through the field to 19th place now. 20 seconds behind the overall race lead, though. He was in second place at the time. It cost him a fair bit of time, and it's cost him significant track position. And then try to line up the next, which will be Mark Hilly. Oh dear.
It looks like Harry Dodds, teammate to Marcus Watson, trouble out of turn 1. And that'll push him down to 33rd once again. It's been a tough one for Harry Dodds. He had some great pace in the first 20 minutes or so, but that seems to have been erased somewhat. Let's see what happened to him, whether or not he had some help here. Looks like Dylan Shepherd making a move on the Aston Martin behind him, but no contact. Harry Dodds just losing the rear end and recovered the slide somewhat, but the car just wasn't willing to grip back up.
Yeah, 2 snaps, bit of time lost, similar to some of the other incidents we've seen. This will be more time lost than that, though.
Yeah, Mark Hilly out of the Kettle Bottoms. Actually, is it the Kettle Bottoms or the Hurry Downs? I think it is the Hurry Downs, this section of the track. Up behind the Mustang, and once again, it's what Peter was referring to before. The Aston Martin just doesn't seem to cooperate when it comes to traction and rear grip out of corners. That's certainly not the first Aston we've seen to have trouble getting out of a turn.
There's a few of them going okay, but it certainly doesn't seem like it's necessarily their strength. They seem to go well at the end of the straights, quite as well in the braking zones. Mid-corner, tough to tell exactly. Here's one that's going okay for itself, though. Isaac Curtis in 9th. He's got the Mustang and Matt Bailey behind him again. estimate the relative strengths and weaknesses of the two different models of car.
Out of turn 3, smooth throttle application for Isaac Curtis as Matt Bailey gets larger in his rear view mirrors. We'll see if there's a move here down at turn 5. At the moment, it seems like Bailey doesn't quite have the momentum to go for it, and I think he'll be happy to stay behind for now. Peter, I understand you have something.
Yes, I've just come back from the AITT guys, and I just said, Pete, what's going on in the race? And I'm like, well, it's kind of pretty mundane. Everybody's just cruising along and trying to get to the first pit stop, I think. And that's pretty much the case. Those boys are doing exactly the same thing. They were quite open for me. Got about 5 laps worth of fuel left, so about another 10 minutes, which puts us pretty much spot on that 34-minute mark, right in the window that we talked about. So we're looking good. These guys aren't using any more fuel than the Limited guys did, just even though they're a little bit faster. But yeah, I think the consensus across everybody at the moment is gain a spot if you can, but really a lot of patience, go through the safety car drill, go through the strategy drills and pit stops as you can at the moment. Wait for a safety car to see what happens, and then mix it up in the back half of the race.
Yeah, an uneventful first part of the race is usually a good thing for many drivers, but there's going to be some eventfulness here going on for Marino Morella, who seems to be having some internet issues as he's being harassed by Stuart Ellis in the OPR Mercedes. A brief loss of slipstream, but for the moment, it would appear Stuart Ellis has the pace he needs to get by. Barely anything on lap time between them, only a couple of hundredths, if that. And Stuart Ellis continuing his good run here, the top Mercedes in the field as things stand. Trent Allen, first car to come into the pits. I don't know if this is necessarily a planned pit stop, but regardless, Trent Allen is indeed in, and it might be a tad early by your estimate, Peter.
Well, that's funny. I was just talking to that team, and they all said they're going to go long, and then Trent drives in the pits. So I don't know whether they've taken something out of what I've said or not. But or did something happen to Trent? Did he get an incident in that last lap or so? They got a little bit of damage. Who knows?
Yeah, that may.
Might go and check it out.
Yes, some extra info, and that would be certainly appreciated. I'm going back to have a look at Trent Allen's last lap myself, and I'm not really seeing much to suggest any problems for Trent. Well, we'll keep ourselves going here in the battle for the lead. Damon Woods continuing to take point at the front by 0.4 of a second over Byron Pierce. Championship rival Zach Rattray-White, pretty distant third at the moment, but then there's only about 1.5 seconds in it, so the race is still very much on. As Peter said, David, it's largely about just getting to the first pit stop, and then we might start seeing a bit more racing.
Yeah, this has only just begun to open up in the last lap that left Zach Rattray-White behind, so he was part of the 3-car leading group, and then Woods and Pierce just left him apart a little bit, and then we've got that next group of 4 cars beginning to fracture as more space opens up between Campbell Adams in 5th and Marino Morella in 6th.
5-second penalty for Dylan Shepherd for causing an incident on lap 12, and car 521 has also received a 5-second penalty. Not sure Lockhart Brownlee. So that's both One Performance Racing and ODBM with a couple of penalties to figure out towards the end of the race. Peter, you're back. Do you have any information for us on that pit stop?
Oh, boys, you're going to love this. As I said, I just come out from talking to Trent and the boys in the AITT team, and and because I said to them, "Oh, the race looks pretty boring. No one's done anything different like pit early." As I left, Trent's gone, "Hey, that's a good idea. Let's pit early."
Oh dear. The broadcast crew is influencing the action. You heard it here first. This is the penalty for Lockhart Brownlee. Oh dear. Yeah, contact with the Acura. And yeah, I don't know. The Acura was slow, and it didn't look like there was too much of a disadvantage gained there, but regardless, a 5-second penalty it is for Lockhart from race control. But Well, now that we've seen Trent Allen make his way through pit lane, we've also seen Rick Provenzale visit the pits, but that was about 9 laps ago, and I think that might have been partially damage repair. So we'll see what Trent can do from here, David. Car 27 back in 40th place with a 23-second pit stop to his name. That will be the number by which we judge all the other stops.
Yeah, absolutely,
Well,
and always to keep in mind
yeah.
how much fuel drop can cover a set of tyres.
So don't remember, he's going to be 4 laps short. So he's going to be a few seconds shorter naturally, but he's going to have to pay that back later in the race. So 20. I wouldn't take 23 seconds as the benchmark for this. I'd wait till they come in about 3 more laps. I think 3 more laps, and then we'll start to see the big part.
On board with Dylan Shepherd. Oh, yep, that's Shepherd there to the right. And the penalty that he received is due to this, I think. Yes. Oh, yep. Moving back across the track. On board with Benjamin Welder. And that's, I think, a pretty slam dunk penalty there. Obviously, moving in a braking zone is not ideal.
I have seen Shepherd's guide their flock slightly more gently than that.
Yes. Well, first half hour down, officially a quarter of the way through this race. And Damon Woods is facing a slightly lower gap now, still around 0.4 of a second, but I think Byron Pierce is more than happy to stick behind him for the time being. Woods, I think, will be at the most a disadvantage here at the front of the field. He's the one who's punching the hole in the air for everybody else, and he's using all of the throttle application that this circuit demands. Those behind him having slight benefit of the slipstream, they can afford to save a little more fuel. So when the pit stop cycle does come around, it'll be interesting to see what Woods' stop time ultimately is.
Change for 11th. Sam Chapman battling with Isaac Curtis.
Contact that we saw before with Jack Stone that Harry Dodds was involved in has gotten himself a 5-second penalty. So race control are certainly dishing things out here today. Now the fight will increase a bit further here as Sam Chapman, now by Isaac Curtis, back into 11th spot, chasing McCrowan and Bailey. Is that someone going off the pits? Nope, that is one of the Mustangs spun around. Looks like a lap car. I think that might be Rick Provenzale. It is. And we're seeing pit stops now come into effect. Most of the cars coming into the pit lane Mustangs, apparently. But Isaac Curtis, Marcus Watson, Ethan Bass, also seeing quite a few of our Aston Martins find their way into the pit lane as well. So this is pretty much bang on the pit window right now. Seeing what benefit this brings the drivers that have decided to come in now, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're going to get a real mark on what a full tank's going to cost in terms of time. And I'd expect everybody that's gone through in that first lap, that first 15, 16 cars, I'd expect they'll be pitting as soon as they come around this one lap. So that one lap might make a difference at the end of the race.
Certainly could. Safety car could throw all of that out of the window as well. Always a possibility in Premier Endurance League. So, Isaac Curtis's pit stop, 27 seconds. It's about the same for Ethan Bass, 28-second stop for Brock Kelly. So we're seeing stops of about 27 to 28 seconds be the benchmark for a full fill. And Curtis will come out ahead. Watson back up to 24th place. Bass, Allen, Kelly, Jepson, etc. The drivers in that order out of pit lane. Now, keeping an eye out for Trent Allen. Yes, actually, Trent Allen. 3 laps beforehand. Coming out just behind Bass and Watson. So, as Peter said, we'll have to worry about an extra maybe splash and dash for Trent Allen towards the end of the race, but it'll be interesting to see how this works out from the short term. Interesting to see that our top 2 have stayed out for an extra lap, but everyone behind them has elected to come in.
72 kilometres an hour, the pit lane speed limit Campbell Adams happy to attack that, even following Dean Mackay and Zach Rattray-White in. No penalties for speeding on pit lane for anyone yet thus far, even in the last group that came in a lap ago. Many other drivers following in here. This is the on-board from Adams.
Here we go. Side by side with Mackay on the way past the pit entry cones. That was quite the risky maneuver, but Road America, though it has a narrow entry lane, pit lane itself is quite wide, but it's also very long as well. Even at a 72 km/h pit speed limit, Peter, Road America has one of the longest pit lane delta times of any road circuit on iRacing.
Yeah, it's a good drive-through penalty if you get it, but it's a long one. But look, it's even for everybody. I'm astounded here by the extra laps by the two leaders, Byron and Damon. That I did not expect those guys to be going another lap again.
Yeah, I'm quite impressed. I thought, if anything, Damon Woods would be the first to come into pit lane, being out in front for so long as he had. Well, keeping an eye on Isaac Curtis briefly as he will filter back out into 12th spot as he finds his way past Chapman and Saragi on the way out of pit lane. That's a problem there for Saragi, and it looks like Chapman falling down the order as well. Was that a coming together into the first turn? Remains to be seen. They will be split by Marcus Watson coming out of the third turn.
Remember, guys, these guys are going to come out on cold tyres after a pit stop, potentially, if they change them. And cold tyres on these cars can be devastating. And we've just hit a safety car. Harry Dodds is parked up on the side of the road somewhere, and safety car's out.
We also had one of the Mustang drivers, I had my eyes on them, Trent Stapleton actually, who's back into the lane now, also discovered that cold tyres are very, very challenging. He went for a 360. So there's a few drivers that have started on cold tyres and now been very, very rudely reacquainted with how low grip new cold tyres are, including Zach Rattray-White, it seems.
Well, boys, I'm kind of surprised that people would change tyres at this pit stop. I mean, the tyres on a GT3 are normally good for an hour stint, so you probably only do one tyre change, really, for the ultimate pace. So I think for those changing tyres, is it a mistake? Might be. It might be just an automatic thing that they have on iRacing, but I wouldn't change tyres at this stop. I would run the hot tyres and go straight through to the middle of the race stop for a new set.
Yeah, I'm thinking that GT3 tyres generally they last about 90 minutes. So the drivers who change tyres on this pit stop, they'll be good to the end regardless. The question is, will there be enough life left in those tyres at the end? As you say, Peter, I think the changing tyres in the middle of the race might have been the better decision there, but it's always something to get used to. These tyres, they were updated quite some time ago now on the GT3, starting off very cold. Spin for Lockhart Brownlee coming out of the carousel. That was just getting the grass, and my God, that was almost a massive incident. One of the Riot Sim Racing Porsches having to take some massive evasive action off the grass. But David, this incident that Harry Dodds has been befallen from, bringing out this safety car, looks like it happened at the kink, and well, it was another solo error. It was only a minor slide, but watching it on my end, it's very it really demonstrates how much you can snap on board here with Dawson.
This is the Dakar heritage of the Porsche 911. That car begins rolling backwards, and he smells that coming from a mile away. Takes the rally cross route and lives to see another day.
And he does. Really quick reaction times there. So, the running order for the moment. The safety cars come out at pretty much the perfect time for Damon Woods and Byron Pierce. They were able to complete their pit stops and get out ahead, and they will maintain their top two positions. But Campbell Adams has certainly benefited from all of this. Finds himself in third place ahead of Mackay and Morella, despite the pit stop times being pretty even between all three of them.
well, we saw some drivers are incredibly brave attacking the pit entry, others aren't. Getting up to speed from the standing start can be difficult, and we are looking at Harry Dodds approaching the kink. This could be on the outlap. Oh, it just snaps. It just pitches him straight into the outside, and the cold tyres he's trusted, and they have betrayed him.
Yeah, the kink is flat out in a GT3 car when the tyres are up to temp, but it was only a minor meander of the rear end that Dodds tried to correct, but then the front's gripped up out of nowhere and he was just spat straight into the concrete. There's nothing to save you at that section of the racetrack. Well, the safety car will be coming in shortly. Maybe not this lap, but certainly the next one, I'm sure. Lights are still flashing, so we won't be seeing it pull away this time. The running order switching up quite a bit. Interesting to note that Sam Sutton has benefited massively from that pit cycle as well. Finds himself in 7th place after Zach Rattray-White's spin. So whether or not Sutton will be able to capitalize on that remains to be seen.
I've got some rather odd information around Sam Sutton's pit stop. It won't tell me what his pit stop time was. All I know is that he went one lap longer than most of the field, pitted that same lap as Woods and Pierce, so did successfully extend the first stint, was able to pit with the around the time the safety car was deployed, and that may have helped that he was able to extend the stint as long as he did. Any other drivers extend like him deeper in the field and gain spots? Not really. So it's only really Woods, Pierce and Sutton that got to that lap. Woods and Pierce were already leading the race, exited the pit stop with a lead of the race. I think going that one lap longer for Sutton will have helped, because everyone else would have been on their new tyres. His warm tyre overcutted them and then been spared losing out the other side of the coin by when the safety car came out. So I think that's where Sutton's got his spots. The safety car's really helped him on the overcut.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, the weaving begins. All the drivers who have been struggling with those cold tyres will be desperate to get some heat into them while they go about that. Time for a word from our title sponsor, Motorsport Simworld.
This is where drivers get faster. At Motorsport Simworld, it's not just about racing, it's about refining your craft. Casual sessions with your mates, to competitive leagues and unforgettable corporate events, plus coaching that helps you find time where it matters. Train smarter, drive better at Motorsport Simworld.
Thanks for that, Damon. Obviously leading the race and doing some media duties for Motorsport Simworld as well on the side. A fantastic performance thus far from Damon Woods, who leads this one from pole position. Byron Pierce and Campbell Adams round out your top three. Dean Mackay and Marina Morella are 4th and 5th. Some big gains being made by Sam Sutton in the pit cycle up to 7th spot. The safety car, of course, saving him from having to worry about tyre heat issues after performing that overcut. Zach Rattray-White on the back foot after spinning shortly after the safety car was called. He is back in 8th spot. McCrohan and Dial round out your top 10 in round 3 of the Motorsport Simworld GT3 Open Series here at Road America. If you're just joining us, I'm Reese Gardner. David Haynes is alongside me in the commentary box, and Peter Baxter is our pit reporter, who I understand has some information for us.
Yeah, mate, I've just come back from having a chat with the Vermilion guys, and I was looking to see how Eli Donaldson had whether he got some success out of that safety car. Unfortunately, he didn't. Come out of the pits on cold tyres, had a little bit of rub with someone, back into the pits, was doing some repairs, was trying to time it to get out of the pits just in front of the train, but unfortunately race control had called the pit exit closed just before he got to the exit, and so he's been held there with about 10 seconds left of repairs on his car, and he's had to go down a lap. So can't win a trick tonight for Eli. Had a quick chat with Dean Mackay. Yeah, look, he's going, look, I'm pushing hard. The boys in front, fuel saving. Yeah, like us, I think a little bit of awe how the guys have been managed to feel safe and go so fast. So that's interesting that those two out the front have been able to do that. Also caught up with the boys, Isaac Curtis, Kane Ryder, and the lads there. And a little bit frustrated. I think they want to be the Max Boost boys. They just want to be a little bit higher. Obviously, Campbell's going well, but the rest of the team want to be up there with him. So lots of heads going on. There's an expectation that there's a lot to come in this race yet, possibly another safety car, and a long way to go. So lots of patience to be had.
An hour and 15 minutes left on the clock as Damon Woods brings us around the final corner, getting ready for the single file restart. It's been a big reset of this race. Pit cycle coinciding almost with the safety car, and a slightly different running order to contend with. When does Woods decide to put the power down at the crest of the hill? This is about the point where we'd expect it. And the green flag will fly, and we are away. A bit of jostling going on behind them as Campbell Adams is desperate to keep everybody behind him. The two Astons and Mercedes, Mackay, Ellis and Morella all up behind him. Almost three wide on the way into turn one. Campbell Adams is going to hold on to that position, but only just, David.
Some cars can be more balanced than others on the cold tyres, and so they might really shine for a moment until everyone gets their temperature up. It's going okay for Damon Woods on the restart, battling elsewhere through the field, off the road elsewhere in the field.
McCrowan falling off the track, and Adam Jepson has done the same thing. I see Matt Bailey falling down the timing tower as well. That's far from ideal. Campbell Adams has moved into second place, ahead of Byron Pierce. Getting the slipstream, and Mackay's now around, coming out of turn 5. Cold tyres, not the Aston Martin's friend. Oh, goodness me. That's going to result in an even bigger incident. Matt Bailey, who was already falling down the order, is going to fall down even further. The pile-up has continued. Oh, my God, this is sheer chaos on this restart. It's an absolute junkyard out there, David.
Dean Mackay goes into the wall, gets going, comes up the top of the hill, drives into another car. Many cars now with meatball flags. Matt Webber, Dean Mackay, Matt Bailey and Mark Hilly. But Dean Mackay's had two big hits. Matt Bailey's Mustang's got problems.
I also saw Marcus Watson in the gravel trap at turn 5. No safety car at the moment, as everyone more or less seems to have gotten rolling. But there were multiple incidents going on there, and another one for Shepherd, who, oh, that is crabbing hard. Dylan Shepherd is going to have a very tough trip back to pit lane, if he can even make it there. Oh, goodness. First lap.
Bailey were the two that got together as well, coming up towards the Corvette Bridge, I think.
Yes, I'm seeing that myself. We are going to have quite a bit to dissect when all of this calms down. First lap after a safety car restart is usually a chaotic time no matter what the series, but it seems like there's something in the water here at Road America, Peter.
Well, I'm a bit worried because just about everybody involved in that incident I'd just gone out to talk to during that safety car, so I'm a bit scared to go and have another pit chat with anybody at the moment. Dean Mackay, he spun on cold tyres, boys. There was no contact whatsoever. That was the rear end letting go, under throttle, coming out of turn 5. And then the rest of that were the ramifications of that as his car sat perpendicular to the track and everybody else had to avoid it. So he did everything he can not to get onto the track, and he stopped the car straight away. But it was simply nothing more than a first lap cold tyre incident, but it's had that massive ramifications up there at turn 6, and a whole lot of the cars have been damaged, including Dean again in the second one.
That's the incident for Daniel McCrowan on the Motorsport Simworld replay, and it looked like Matt Bailey was one of the cars that was avoiding him there. So that's the reason why Bailey was falling down initially. Then we had Mackay steaming into turn 5, gets on the power, over the curb, the car gets unsettled, into the concrete, and that may be classed as not holding the brakes. In the process of avoiding him, it looks like Dylan Shepherd got into Matt Bailey, and that's what triggered this chaos coming out of turn 6. Goodness gracious me. Yeah, poor Dean Mackay there. Already trying to get on the recovery, but ended up finding a blocked track ahead of him. Not much of a problem for those up at the front of the field, though. Damon Woods, Campbell Adams, and Byron Pierce remain your top three. Marino Morella and Zach Rattray White round out your top five with an hour and 10 to go.
One of the lap down cars that seems getting out of the way. We were discussing which cars seem a big handful on pole tyres, which are a little bit more balanced. Campbell Adams seems to like the balance of his Lamborghini on that restart as he's jetted up to second. A few of the drivers of Aston Martins weren't quite enjoying their balance so much. This looks like Dylan Shepherd just based on the Audi rear wing. He does not enjoy the carousel, and that's where the bulk of his damage actually comes from. I thought he might have picked some of that up earlier, but it's a later incident where it's found the wall and dinted his Audi R8.
Yeah, the car was probably already unsettled from the earlier damage, and for a long high-low corner like the carousel, any issues your car has are exacerbated. So, now we've gotten some kind of a rhythm going. Battle for 23rd. That's Jack Bird finding his way past Clint Smith. The sole McLaren in the field has got two Mustangs now attacking him. The pro dive car of Ryan Bell, the first to get to the apex of turn 3 and find his way up into 24th place. There's plenty more to think about for the cars behind as well. Looks like a bit of compression going on here as that's Corey Bennett trying to pick a lane on the way down to turn 5. Had some issues earlier on with Lockhart Brownlee, but has gotten some repairs done. Daniel McCrowan mercifully avoiding damage from his incident. I guess it's two sides of the coin there, David. Yes, he did have a spin out of turn 3, but that put him at quite a distance from the chaos that erupted ahead.
Yeah, it's the advantage of the first mover, perhaps. In that particular example, you'll be very filthy with yourself initially, only to find that someone else has gone and done it worse later on.
Peter's back. What do you got?
Well, good news is, boys, I'm not banned from the pits with Dean, but yeah, he's a little bit down on himself. It was just a cold tyre incident. Kind of perplexed, didn't expect it to happen, but look, it's happened. He's had to use his fast repair. He's back out in the race now, so yeah, fingers crossed we get a safety car and he gets back into it and shows us what he's capable of. But yeah, maybe he's thankful there's a drop down in this Premier Endurance League series, eh?
Yes, absolutely. And I guess the other silver lining for Mackay is he is still on the lead lap. So that could be massive if and when a safety car comes out again. So, two Pro Dive Mustangs unsuccessful in getting past Clint Smith. And Jack Bird now has a bit more of a gap there at the front of this fight for 23rd place. But what will Stapleton and Bell do to work together to find their way a bit further up? They're the couple of the cars that haven't quite moved as much as they'd like. That's a problem for Bell there. Wide out of turn 1, and Corey Bennett's going to split them.
So that wasn't especially cooperation. But again, I'm starting to think that little mistakes like that are very, very forgivable compared to some of the big mistakes, big crashes we've seen. You'll dust yourself off from losing a second and a spot or two cutting through the grass if it means you stay out of the other cars and stay out of the wall.
Staying out of the rear end of the Mustang is exactly what Adam Jepson just did there. The Aston Martin he's driving looks pretty good under the brakes. Made up a lot of time into turn 5, but we'll see if that pace continues here. Look at the time that he's making up under the brakes there, but it seems like the Mustangs are just a bit more planted on the exit, and I think that's consistent with what we've heard about the Aston Martin so far. Meanwhile, fight going on here for 12th spot. Dan Yeaman moving up into 11th ahead of Jet Saragi, and Isaac Curtis is going to take advantage as well. Saragi, who was one of the stars of last round at Adelaide, unable to work his way that much forward in the Lamborghini at Road America. The street circuit really benefited those mid-engine cars, but the Astons seem to be back on top, as do all of the front-engine machines here at Road America.
Yeah, Campbell Adams, though, still holding down that second place in the Lamborghini, managing to stay in the slipstream of Damon Woods. So critical if you're looking to extend this middle stint after we have that safety car that also will help you extend the middle stint of the race. Safety car also eats a little bit of the time on the clock, so there might be some drivers that are now aiming to believe that a 2-stop could be possible just based on the timing of that safety car.
What do you think of that, Peter?
Not a chance.
Nope.
Not a chance. This is a 3-stop. I think what it'll do is it's certainly shorten the 3rd stop, but there's not a chance on fuel that they can do this on 2 stops with 1 safety car. I think you're going to need at least 2 more safety cars to come near that, and it's going to have to be a long one.
Well, having said that, I cast my mind back to Trent Allen, who pitted 3 laps earlier than everybody else, side by side between Pianazzola and Chapman into turn 5, meanwhile on live pictures. Potentially that safety car has actually saved Trent Allen the splash and dash later on. Potentially would need a bit more fuel to make it work, as the side-by-side's going to continue for 21st. Pianazzola.
No, mate, so let me jump in, because there was never going to be an extra splash and dash for Trent Allen. He pitted within the critical pit stop window to be able to still to get the end with the normal 3 stops. What it was going to mean was at one of the future stops, he was going to have to spend 4 more seconds to get through than the other guys. So it certainly wasn't another stop. And I was surprised. I nearly jumped in his pit bay to say, "What are you doing?" He actually went and pitted under that safety car. I thought that was the chance actually to gain some track position and then drive as well as he could. Try and use that alternate pit stop strategy. But I understand why he did what he did, but he's lost the track position and dropped back again. But yeah, it was never another splash and dash. It hasn't. It's just saved him from that extra 4 seconds. He's now even with everybody else.
Fair enough. So basically an effective reset for Trent Allen. So Morella and Rattray White 4th and 5th for the moment. And that's a big penalty there for Aidan Rankin. 25 seconds, and I believe that is for the incident that we saw at turn 6. I did notice that Rankin was one of the cars there in his Lamborghini that was crabbing by the side of the racetrack shortly after the incident happened. So potentially we'll need another replay to dissect exactly what happened there, because I frankly lost Rankin in all of the mess that we saw, David.
I mean, there was a million things happening on that restart lap. We'll dig through what we can about various of these incidents. So we continue to race now, though. We are, again, forming up a couple of little packs. 3 for the lead, 4 behind Morella, Jackson Dial and Kane Ryder here in 8th and 9th. Sam Chapman somehow seems to be all on his own in 10th. Whoa.
With the Summit car we're hearing, and that was the 117. Oh, good lord. Yep, that'll do it. And then everyone just piles into him, run out of the turn there. So yeah, Aidan Rankin considered by race control the trigger of that incident. That was pretty nasty, but we have moved on from that now. We'll have an hour to go in the race. Change for 8th, Jackson Dial, giving that up to Kane Ryder, as we're looking at Owen Coleman in 17th place, up 16 spots from where he started. Pretty impressive. Not the biggest gainer in the field, though. Kurt Chapman in 21st, now up 23 places from his starting spot, David.
Yeah, this is still good, though, for Coleman, who took full tank of fuel at his stop, is now part of a pretty quick pack, being led by Ben Jeffrey, Benjamin Wilder just in front of us here. Watson behind, you can see in that generously proportioned rear-facing camera, also going to close in. So this, outside of the top 10, is a quick group of drivers.
Keep an eye on Marcus Watson, who's just up behind these guys. Marcus has really been up and down in this field, hasn't he? We saw him off track just before the big incident on the restart lap, spinning out of 2nd place at the end of lap 1. He has had a lot of work to do in this race, but he may stand to gain another position here if this battle between Coleman and Wilder continues. Benjamin and the Aston Martin tight on the way through Hurry Downs. Not the kind of corner that you want to be squeezed to the inside of. And he'll stay defensive on the way into the corner before the carousel. Contact, and Marcus Watson just avoids getting involved there with Owen Coleman, but he may have been the trigger of that contact.
I'm going to say Watson arriving on the scene was beginning to limit Coleman's options. He might have wanted to cross over under there, but couldn't with the arrival of Marcus Watson, and then he certainly got a little too close for comfort there, and Owen Coleman is now in a tough spot.
And the King trying to get back up to speed with an angry pack of cars chasing him here. Finds himself in between Chapman and Pianazzola. Here's the incident, and it's hard to tell. Looked like there was probably potential for contact there, but hard to tell if it actually happened. Side by side's going to continue, and actually chaos has erupted. Kurt Chapman is around and no longer the biggest gainer in the field. That's not ideal there. Actually, I think he still is the biggest gainer. Oh, now he's equal biggest with Benjamin Wilder. Paul Heckel now 17 places up, and he is the hardest charger in the field. So it looked like just as we cut away from that fight, there was a bit of an optimistic move from Owen Coleman up the inside of Bill Mitchell Bend that ended up turning the Porsche around.
It would look a little bit like this. I don't think outrageously optimistic. A squeeze at the apex, perhaps.
Yeah, on review I would agree. But
again, just another tiny snippet of a big picture.
Yeah. We'll see what race control has to say about that, though. We've had a couple more penalties come in, or at least one, as Coleman now sees his rearview mirror filled with plenty of cars. 5-second penalty for Trent Stapleton. And Stapleton has just come into pit lane. It's a very long stop, actually, for Stapleton. I'm not entirely sure what's gone on for him. I'm checking his car in pit lane, and I'm not seeing any big damage to the Mustang. But it would appear he is still in the car. So, bit of a mystery there for Trent Stapleton. But he's just received news of that 5-second penalty from race control.
Damon Woods leading this race, able to break the toe, it looks like, for Campbell Adams. The Lamborghinis now, as the stint goes on, coming under a little bit more pressure.
Yes, quite a bit of pressure indeed. Race control is, again, pretty active. Another 5-second penalty has been dished out to car 99. That's Clint Smith for passing before the control line on the safety car restart. So, yet another little violation that has resulted in a small chink in the armour for someone in this field. Quite a few drivers receiving penalties. But I feel like it's been the kind of race that you see that sort of thing happen.
It's long straights, big braking zones. Timing of the safety car restart really clumping everyone.
All right. As this battle continues here with Campbell Adams holding off Byron Pierce for the foreseeable future. Peter Baxter, once again, you dipped out of the commentary box briefly to get some information. Are we receiving any answers on what's going on with Trent Stapleton?
Yeah, he just had a self-incident, ran himself into the wall. He's come in, he's got about 6 minutes of repairs. So he's going to take them, he's going to come back out and see how I can go for the rest of the race. So a little bit down at the moment, but I did remind him that last week I was P43 at one stage and ended up with a reasonable result, and he said, yes, that's true. So hopefully that gives him a bit of motivation to come out and have some fun.
Absolutely. Well, the charge up the field continuing for Marcus Watson. He's got Lockhart Brownlee. Oh dear, no, that's not Brownlee that just spun behind him. That's Eli Donaldson, who has been one of the more embattled drivers in this race. Spun on the exit of the kink, and that looked like a solo error to me. Just a bit wide off the racing line. Great avoiding action from Lockhart Brownlee.
The kink's got that kind of characteristic where if you've got the perfect racing line, it's basically flat out. But sometimes in a battle like this, you're a little offline, you're half a car width apart, you're a little restricted in your visibility here. So he's half a car width wide, and that's the problem for Donaldson. Turns in late because he's right up behind the big Mustang, and he's, 30 centimetres offline. And offline is offline. Through the kink, it'll bite you big.
Oh, it certainly will. The fight continues then for 16th spot now that Eli Donaldson is out of the picture. And we'll get back to them shortly as we check back in on our top 10. Just outside of it, Dan Yeaman going for it on Sam Chapman, and Isaac Curtis might try to follow him through here. Side by side on the exit of turn 5, and they'll be brought into further contact with Jet Saragi, who has just received a 5-second penalty himself from race control for an incident on lap 22. Hasn't been a great day for the Max Boost drivers in terms of penalties and incidents, if you're not Campbell Adams anyway. But hopefully there's a little bit more of a lull here. But Marcus Watson, I think, is going to make sure that we don't see that.
No, he goes round the outside, looking for the inside of the carousel, which I think is where you want to be by this point of the race. More than an hour in, there'll be lots of marbles around the outside there. Trying to ride the high line around the outside. Probably not going to work. Oh, but neither is running wide.
Oh, side by side through the kink is not a good idea. And Marcus Watson very smartly blends out of the throttle and lets Benjamin Wilder take that at the apex. But the slipstream is picked up again. Wilder defensive on the way into Canada Corner. Lockhart Brownlee, our camera car, for this side-by-side fight. Bit wide on the exit, but it would appear he's going to stay in touch with them, especially if he nails the exit of the final corner. Now Campbell Adams has the fastest lap of the race on a 2:02.4. This is going to really close things up at the front, I'm sure. But the pace is so incredibly close throughout this field. All it takes is one tiny error from one driver and chaos can erupt, as we've already seen. Defensive for Benjamin Wilder coming into turn 1. And Marcus Watson will be stymied once again. But can he get the over-under out of turn 1? Not quite. It's covered by Benjamin Wilder once again. On the racing line now for the Project 36 Mustang. He'll keep the momentum up through turn 3. This is a great fight. But I think Marcus Watson is going to be a little frustrated at how it's going for him, David.
Brownlee's waiting for them to figure it out because he was having a look. He's decided, maybe if I just hitch my wagon to this horse. The dark horse around the outside. Where is the grip at this point? It's nowhere. Everyone's having troubles.
Wilder keeps the inside into turn 6. But Marcus Watson with the wider line and straighter exit will finally take the spot. Now it's Brownlee's turn to have a go at Benjamin Wilder. Slight contact on the exit of turn 7. Hard on the brakes, though, on the racing line. Not able to get the move done around the outside. So Lockie's going to have to wait a little bit longer to get that magic position to make it 8 up from where he started. Peter, you've rejoined us. What do you have?
Yeah, I just went and checked in on Eli Donaldson, and guys, he was just too close up the back of the car that he was funny. He missed the apex, and that's how he had his crash. So, yeah, he's a little bit disappointed. He did ask me to put the mockers on somebody by mentioning their name on the broadcast and having their spin, and I jokingly said, I think that's you tonight, mate. So, unfortunately, you be careful who you talk to when you're talking to Pete Baxter tonight.
Absolutely. Look at the gap for the lead, meanwhile, as Campbell Adams brings the fastest lap of the race down to a 2:02.35. He has been gaining more and more on Damon Woods every lap for the last few laps. This could result in a change for the lead soon, David, if Damon Woods is not careful. 50 minutes to go and still another pit stop expected.
Yeah, blessings create blessings here, I think. Adams has found a tiny bit more speed. It's got him back within a second of Damon Woods, which has given him a bit of a slipstream, which has found him a little bit more speed. So suddenly, Woods has maybe also realised then that he's not going to be able to break away here. And he may be driving slightly differently now versus when he thought breaking the draft was possible.
Well, don't forget, boys, that Damon Woods and Byron Pierce fuel saved together while staying out the front of the race in the first session. So I wouldn't put it past Damon Woods to just be managing this gap rather than driving hard and Campbell Adams catching up to him. I got a feeling that Damon's still probably managing his fuel whilst managing the race.
Yeah, something that Damon Woods has done in the past. Oh, that's another blow for Marcus Watson. A 10-second penalty from race control. I believe that may have been for the incident we saw down at this very corner with Jack Bird now side by side here, 22nd place with Jordan Pianazzola and Daniel McCrowan looking to make a recovery. But yeah, that's just another development in this race that Marcus Watson wouldn't want.
Group forming for 21st here, led by Pianazzola. Jack Bird not able to get past. We're on board with McCrowan. A few Corvettes. And closing in here, down the inside of Canada corner. You've got to make that corner though.
That's a bit deep there. Jack Bird and Pianazzola will find his way back past. It's nice bit of curb on the exit of Bill Mitchell bend. Oh, that's off into the gravel. Keep it out of the wall, mate. Jack Bird manages to keep it out there. McCrowan going to respond to that by going for the pit lane. First driver to take his second stop here officially in this race.
Yeah, Jack Bird got a bit of a touch there, boys. That's what sent him offline. So I think McCrowan's just gone, hey, time for a pit stop. Let's go. And then come out and take advantage of the two cars having a little bit of beef.
Yes, indeed. Turns out it was a big hit as well, if our producer Jay Kennedy is to be trusted, and he usually is. Looks like McCrowan might have gotten into the back of him. Oh my God, yeah, that is a huge hit. I think that might explain why McCrowan has gone for the pit stop there. He might have picked up some pretty serious damage from that contact.
He thought he did, so difference of braking point going into the final corner. Leads to some pretty serious contact. Top three coming together. The next three group of drivers coming together. Morella, Zach Rattray White, and Stuart Ellis, the fastest car on track last lap. 10th away from the personal best himself in that Mercedes.
This is another great battle. It's been brewing and boiling away at the front of this field for some time. Ellis, though, a little bit wide out of the final corner, will risk losing touch with the Astons down at the front stretch. More positions being made this time. Lockhart Brownlee finally gets through on Benjamin Wilder. And he'll know now that Marcus Watson has that 10-second penalty to his name, and that'll be 10 seconds added to his time at the end of the race. Wilder's going to respond to this by going into pit lane himself. Probably worth trying something different, having just been passed. But yeah, Lockie is still going to have to face a potential on-track battle with Marcus Watson, but he will know that ultimately, even if he finishes behind, he'll be granted the position. Overtake from Ethan Bass coming down to Canada corner here on the Motorsport Simworld replay. And Sam Chapman in the Mercedes has to stay wide at the apex. Very nice lunge by the Scotsman.
Meanwhile, that looks like a little bit of Faf Motorsport for Chapman at Canada corner, so that fits.
Another move for Bass, this time on Jet Saragi. Making some pretty impressive dives here in the middle stint is Ethan Bass. He's enjoying that Mustang. Remember last time we were really looking at him, he was embroiled in that fight at the back end of the top 20, just trying to advance forward. Well, the chaos that erupted on the restart lap, and I guess the way this middle stint has worked out for the drivers around him, he has elevated himself now up 8 positions from where he started, and that's a pretty impressive run, all things considered.
Leading pack sort of looking at their fuel range running out in just a few laps. So another flurry on pit lane.
Hey, Dads, I just come back from the AIT boys again. They've been really generous with their fuel numbers for me tonight. They're saying 4 laps left after they cross the line on this one. And if you have a look at the time frame, that puts it right on 36 minutes to go. So we might get away with a 2-stopper. But I tell you what, if we are green flagged to the end, I reckon we're going to see
on pit lane for Ethan Bass.
We'll see cars running out of fuel on the last lap, I reckon. But that's right about where we are. Another safety car will save that from happening. But yeah, she's going to be close, team.
Yes, certainly will. Unfortunately, not going to be anywhere near close for Ethan Bass, as you say, David. That was, I think, a pertinent decision by Bass to come into the pits there to try and set himself up for his last couple of stints. But all it takes is braking just a little bit too late, and you're going to be spending an extra 30 seconds, even more, in pit lane.
Yeah, so Ethan Bass was not a little bit over. He was a fair bit over as well. It's one of those ones that you've just got to practice, because you can't actually see the cones till you come over the crest. You've got to brake before you see the cones. So if you only brake when you see the cones, you're too late. You just got to practice it, know where they are over the crest of the hill, so that you can really maximise it. Otherwise, you're either too cautious or you get stung, you get caught out.
It's an interesting situation with pit lane at Road America in the real world, as Rattray White continues looking at his teammate Marino Morella for 4th. At least in terms of IndyCar, they actually have like a 2-stage pit speed limit at Road America. The first couple of bollards that they come up to on the pit entry lane you see in the background here, that slows them down to about 120 miles an hour, and then there's a second set of bollards a bit further down pit lane where the actual pit lane speed limit starts. Obviously, that's not the case in iRacing, but yeah, just thought that was interesting to point out.
Yeah, a system they use on ovals as well. They sometimes have a 2-stage on the exit so that you don't spin on cold tyres and shoot from the apron up onto the racing line. And you could program the same for a GT3 car, because there's 2 programmable speed limiters, the pit lane speed limit and the full course yellow speed limit, and often that's 60 and 80 k's an hour. But you could go in and you could set a 2-stage pit limiter without any custom programming for all of these GT3 cars.
Well, huge raft of pit stops we just saw there. Morella and Rattray White leaning them in, with Isaac Curtis, Stuart Ellis, Kane Ryder and Sam Sutton also joining them in pit lane. Sutton, the first of them to complete the stop, and it was only about 25 seconds that Sutton spent in pit lane. He's going to come out side by side, and in the middle of the Eclipse duo, that's another big gain that Sutton has made there on pit road, and he could be on for a 4th place here at least.
He went really long in that first stint, so he's taken a little bit less fuel at this stop just now. Jumped up from being in the no man's land 10th position to right nestled in between Zach Rattray White and Marino Morella, but might need a tiny bit more fuel come the final stop. And of course, pitting now locks them in to need another stop.
Yeah, still over 40 minutes to go in the race, with about 36 minutes being the typical stint length that we were expecting coming into this round.
The other calculation being that there's 21 laps to go, and the longest anyone's done under the safety car, 19 laps.
Indeed. Oh, there we go. Interesting call from Campbell Adams.
He stopped a lap earlier than those guys last time, so it's probably got to be the same now.
Yeah, I would imagine. But once again, this is going to set him up for another stop afterwards towards the end. Damon Woods and Byron Pierce, Peter, they have been able in the past to extend their stint by a couple of laps. You think they might be trying to do the same thing here?
Well, this is really interesting to me, because I think they must. I think the guys that have pitted now, if they're running out of fuel, they have to pit, right? You can't say no, right? You need fuel. They do have to come in again unless there's a safety car to save them. if the AIT boys are right and they've still got another couple of laps left and they get to that 36-minute mark, we might see a real upset here. But the cards are Damon Woods and Byron Pearce, because they have been going the longest out of everybody. They went an extra lap in the first stint. I think there's only one other car that went the same amount of laps with them in the first stint. Everybody else is new to fill. So I'm really looking at that back end, and I want to go and talk to the AOT boys and go and actually check them and see where they're pitting. Because I reckon if we got a group at the back that can make it to the end, we might be in for some surprise results, boys.
Yeah, it could all be down to just focusing on fuel saving throughout the middle stint. If you're further back in the field, and you could benefit bulk positions by the end. The battle for the lead continues into Canada Corner, and we'll keep our eyes trained on Damon Woods and Byron Pearce here to see if they come into the pits this lap. I think it's a 50-50 chance we'll see him stay out as things stand. But the story will be told right now.
Dropped off their pace a little bit as well. So Campbell Adams was catching Damon Woods by doing low 202s. Damon Woods is now in low 203s. He's about to get another lap here. So from a 203.2 last lap to a 203.5, pace dropping for Woods and Pearce. But look at that now, 38 minutes 50 to go. They'll come around, it'll be 36.50 to go when they make that final stop. Woods has stretched this to a 20-lap stint, including a little bit of time behind the safety car that will have added maybe a lap to the stint. But it's now going to be 19 laps to go next time they come around. They are trying to make a two-stop out of this, like I thought they might do.
Yeah, for sure. You are being proven right with every second that passes here, David. So we'll see how it works out for Woods and Pearce. Sam Chapman bringing his car into pit lane as Jackson Dial and Daniel Yeaman fight over 11th spot. Dial remaining in his starting position of 11th for the moment, but with two cars on pit lane at the moment, that'll likely change. Corey Bennett is also in there with Sam Chapman, and just like that, fresh out of the pits, Dial and Yeaman will move into 9th and 10th, and looks like all things remaining the same, that is where they're going to be staying.
Dean Mackay actually on a ludicrous fuel save after the issues that he had. So he took the fast repair, I believe, topped off his fuel, puts him actually on a similar strategy to Woods and Pearce. And all of the damage that we saw, the double whammy on that Aston Martin, it could still come back for a top 10 if some strategy cards fall his way. Another driver who managed to save big in the first stint, hasn't saved as much in the middle stint. We're on board with Sam Sutton. He might have pitted a little too early at the end of that middle stint and gotten himself into some trouble because he didn't dream big enough.
Well, let's see if the dream of the two-stopper will work out for Damon Woods and Byron Pearce, because they're in pit lane right now and coming up to their boxes very shortly. Also on pit lane is Jack Stone there in the Mustang. Ryan Bell making his way out of his box just behind them. Bell down in 31st at the moment. And now we train our eyes on Campbell Adams to see if this slightly earlier stop here is going to give him track position over Damon Woods and Byron Pearce. Woods is up on the jacks getting tyres changed. So is Byron Pearce. They're going to be slithering about a little bit here on the way out of pit lane, which could give a further advantage to Adams in the short term. But the question on our minds is, will Campbell Adams somehow be able to stay in touch with them? As Peter, it looks like Woods and Pearce are going to be good to the end from here.
If they're good to the end, then I'm going to say look out for Brock Kelly, Dean Mackay and Trent Allen as guys into the top 10. Because all of those cars in front of them are going to have to pit again. Those three guy names I just mentioned are coming in either on this lap or they've got one more lap and they'll make it as well.
And there is Campbell Adams. Actually, no, that's his teammate Jet Saragi behind Isaac Curtis. The battle for 11th continuing on there. Coming out of the pits is Sam Chapman. Actually, was that out of pit lane? No. He's already been out there for a lap. Just a bit of an unconventional line on the way into turn 1. He'll keep fighting with Ben Jeffrey over 14th place. We move a bit further up here to Dial and Yeaman, who find themselves at the back end of the top 10 coming out of this pit cycle, but 3 laps and 2 laps into their stints respectively, it is likely they will have to come into the lane again. Having said that, David, I think a safety car, another safety car in the last half an hour will put the drivers that were going to pit again on a slightly more equal footing.
Yeah, I wonder if we can get last pit stop lap or lap since last stop or something, because we're in two buckets of strategy here. Damon Woods and Byron Pearce are clearly trying to go to the end. That's the drivers who pitted on lap 39. The drivers that pitted on lap 37 or 38, a safety car would get them to the end. But the drivers who pitted lap 36 or lap 35, I'm not so sure about. I think they're so committed to a 3-stop that even a safety car might not save them.
Well, here comes Zach Rattray White up behind Campbell Adams now, and it looks like the Max Boost Lamborghini losing some pace there in the last couple of corners. Adams, of course, on tyres that are 3 laps old at the moment. Rattray White's tyres 4 laps old, so I think they might be a bit more switched on now. Does he go for the move into turn 1? No, he's not going to go for it at this point, but he is going to ride the rear bumper of Campbell Adams' Lamborghini. As Damon Woods was really rapid out of pit lane. A slightly slower stop than Byron Pearce, only by 1/10 of a second, but the run through pit lane for Damon Woods was very impressive. 58.6 seconds on my timing, playing 59.4 seconds through pit lane for Byron Pearce.
Yeah, I think that's what Damon Woods get away from his pit stall a little tidier. Looks like Adams trying to defend Zach Rattray White. No, he's trying to use his tyre advantage to get ahead of Byron Pearce. Those tyres still heating up for Woods and Pearce. Adams are in a good spot right now, so his tyres have a bit of an advantage for the next couple of laps. His fuel position certainly doesn't.
No. Safety car will be probably forefront of the mind for Campbell Adams, and he'll be hoping, trying to manifest that, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at some of the pit stop times, boys, and some of those guys that pitted a little bit earlier, there's a couple that stand out to me right now. So Sam Sutton in P6, Dan Yeaman in P10. Those guys only took 24-second pit stops. Everybody else has taken 27 to 28-second pit stops. So I'm wondering why the 3 or 4 laps, probably a 3 laps worth of fuel difference there from those guys. Whether that was a tyre thing in terms of the difference, but it would have been odd to short fuel unless they've short fueled for track position, knowing that they have to pit again anyway.
Some intrigue, some numbers to crunch in the final half hour of round 3 of the Motorsport Simworld GT3 Open Series by Premier Endurance League. It's been quite the championship thus far, starting off the season at Bathurst and then moving to Adelaide for round 2. This is the first non-Australian circuit of the season these drivers are racing at, but it's a track that the vast majority of the drivers are intimately familiar with. This is one of the most used tracks on iRacing for a very good reason. We'll keep our eyes peeled on Sutton and also on Dial and Yeaman here, as it seems like Dan is starting to give a little bit more to Jackson. Both Aston Martins now catching up to Kane Ryder as well. Dan Yeaman's last lap at 203.3, 203.5s for Dial and Ryder.
Well, top 7 closing in just a little bit. That's your top of screen. Bottom of screen is Jackson Dial still holding off Daniel Yeaman. Yeaman stopping 1 lap later. Fractionally more fuel. Oh, and that's wide top of screen there. Sutton lets Ellis through.
Yeah, so Stuart Ellis back into 6th. Sutton continuing his mammoth run up through the field. Still up 10 spots, a pretty impressive gain Owen Coleman coming out of pit lane as well, a bit further down the field. We've had quite a few of our competitors not emerge back out of pit lane after the massive incident on the safety car restart. Clint Smith, Daniel McCrowan, Aidan Rankin, Matt Bailey, Harry Dodds, Rick Provenzale, Mark Hilly, the drivers that have retired from the race for the moment. Trent Stapleton is back out on track after 6.5 minutes, or about 7 minutes spent on pit lane. Change between Coleman and Chapman. And, well, fresh out of the pits for Owen Coleman, potentially didn't take tyres when he came in. Otherwise, that Mustang would be looking a little more difficult to control.
Yeah, and a really quick stop too, so the splash of fuel taken. Not enough to cover off tyres anyway in that kind of time period. So Coleman's like, all right, we'll leave those ones on to the end, and anyone else that's going to take a pit stop between now and the end of the race won't be taking on that much fuel, only a couple of laps, and they'll probably keep their same tyres on.
There's Benjamin Wilder getting ahead of Sam Chapman on the way to turn 1, 16th place for car 334. Could be a move happening here between Dan Yeaman and Jackson Dial, but it seems like Yeaman is lifting and coasting in the braking zones. He is in full-on fuel save mode now.
I'll sit in the cockpit with him and see if I can work that out for you, boys.
Thanks very much, Peter. And so, yeah, I think, the majority of the drivers that pitted around when Yeaman did will be thinking about maybe trying to fuel save to the end, but I think it's going to be a bit of a shot in the dark because it entirely depends on another safety car coming out. And with the big incident of the race already past, the likelihood of another incident of that magnitude is probably going to be near zero at this stage with the spacing out that we've seen throughout this field. 28 minutes remain, and Campbell Adams is solidly in second spot, but amongst cars that are likely to get to the end of the race from here. Now we just see if the battle for track position works out in favour of the Max Boost driver. Picking up the slipstream off Damon Woods across the start-finish line. Fastest car in the top 5 is Marino Morella, 2:02.4 there as he's picked up the slipstream from Byron Pierce.
Really tough to gauge exactly how much saving everyone is trying to do here. The numbers said Damon Woods needs 18 laps from his last pit stop to the checkered flag to be able to make it. A few of the other drivers would need a fair bit more than that. So Woods and Pierce, the only drivers that
the lead.
Comfortable.
Oh, wow, that was a big moment there. Almost went wrong for Campbell Adams as he slithered past Damon Woods, and Woods is going to try and take the lead back here out of turn 6. Contact between the Lamborghini and the Aston, and this brings Zach Rattray White into the fold here. Looks like Byron Pierce has fallen back here, and now Woods is back to 3rd. This is a big change for the lead.
Well, don't forget, boys, the 2 that are in front now, I think they have to pit again. I don't think they can make it to the end. Watching Dan Yeaman, he's doing a lot of fuel saving. He lifted very early going into Canada corner braking point, lifted very early going into the first turn. So, to the point where he's actually dropping back for the cars. So I think there are fuel games at play here, and if Damon and Byron are feeling safe, then there's no reason not to let Campbell and Zach go through. Why take the pressure if you know they're going to pit again, and you guys are right.
Yeah, indeed. Well, that was almost a disaster for Campbell Adams. Woods was going defensive into turn 5, and that forced Adams onto the grass. Some very good car control from the Max Boost 198. Chapman back in pit lane, 13.3 seconds. That should be enough fuel to get him to the end from here. But he is going to come out with our leaders and fall behind them a lap down. It's turning into quite the intense competition towards the end, David. but now Campbell Adams, already at a fuel disadvantage, is going to have all of that air hitting the front of his car like a wall.
I was trying to tell, is that, Adams getting a really good run, or did Damon Woods have to back it off a little bit more, try to engage more fuel saving, and that really tempted Adams into having a run and an attack down here into turn 5. Zach Rattray-White also snuck his way through. Now you've got Woods and Pierce together that are on that same strategy. Marino Morello has gotten ever closer to the race lead over the last 2 laps, where he's been flying along consistently.
Yeah, it has been.
Stuart Ellis and Sam Sutton out to dry a little bit more.
Yeah, oh, that's a car off in the background. I think that might have been Chapman? Not entirely sure. Elsewhere on the track, Eli Donaldson finds the wall in the Vermilion Porsche for not the first time, and it looks like, yeah, that was Chapman. Some big damage. That's some significant hopping of the left front. Hopefully he can make it back around to pit lane. Otherwise, we're going to see another safety car potentially out of this one. The battle for the lead is intensifying as Zach Rattray-White thinks about going for it on Campbell Adams, but is not going to into Canada corner this time around.
I think he had opportunity there and just waited, which is interesting for me to see. Top 5 ever closer with that.
Oh, this is turning into quite the intriguing race now. 12 laps to go according to my timing. Just under 24 minutes remaining.
Chapman has requested to tow, boys. I'm just eagerly waiting if there's a safety car called.
As are we. Chapman there at the carousel. Off track by some margin, but who knows if it's enough to warrant keeping the race green. This is what happened to Chapman coming into Hurry Downs. Across the curb, bit too much grass, slight slide, and that was massive damage. Those tyre bundles are a bit softer than the concrete walls, but you hit them at that speed and they're absolutely going to rip your suspension.
Race control have now towed Chapman, and we remain green. Yeah, he took too much of the apex curb there, sort of bounced the car, got a loss of traction as he was in the air, bouncing across the apex curb too much.
Something you really got to be careful of here at Road America. The curbs are quite flat, and there's not much of a significant drop-off between the curb and the grass in a lot of places. So yes, you can take a bit of the grass and potentially get a pace advantage, but if your car balance is wrong on the way through and you hit the grass wrong, then it's going to be the end of your night. So 22 minutes on the clock. Eli Donaldson, the next to come into pit lane, presumably for the damage we saw him pick up a few moments ago. Campbell Adams maintaining the lead for the time being, but we have no idea how long he's going to be able to hold on to it, especially with how much track he's taking there on the way out of Bill Mitchell Bend.
that wasn't track, that was taking Bill Mitchell.
Yeah. Getting onto the access road a little bit. Is this going to be the move here for Zach Rattray-White, or is he going to continue focusing on just lifting and coasting behind the Max Boost Lamborghini? A slight look, maybe to psych him out, but Campbell Adams is impervious at the moment. Maintaining the lead out of turn 1, but with a very close pack of cars behind. Stuart Ellis and Sam Sutton seem to be keeping pace with these guys. They haven't quite gained on them. But Sutton with a 202.6 on the last lap. That is faster than just about everybody ahead of him. Only Byron Pierce in 4th could get a time close to that.
This is Lockhart, Brownlee and Benjamin Wilder. I was just looking, other than Woods and Pierce, who do I think stood a faint chance of making it to the end? My answers were Daniel Yeaman and Lockhart Brownlee, and them being teammates also makes me think they might have cooked something up. Other issues happening for others in the field.
Yeah, it looks like Jackson Dial, who was embroiled in the fight with Yeaman some time ago, he didn't have the best of runs through the last corner at the end of lap 45. Wide on the exit, and that's the one place where you don't want to be doing that, because you've got the entire front stretch ahead of you, the longest straight on this racetrack. And it hurts Yeaman as well, because he needs that slipstream to fuel save. Regardless, Dial let him go and has dropped back even further to the tune of about 3.5 seconds from Yeaman.
Well, you were talking about the pit delta loss here at Road America. Oh, yeah, that'd do it. That's probably where a bit of that time went. Big snap in turn 3. This is one of those tracks that it really does pay to avoid a splash and dash.
Absolutely. At that point, you might as well just call it a full extra pit stop with how much time you spend on the pit limiter here. Another look at turn 1 for Zach Rattray-White. He's certainly been in this position many times before, where he's been chasing for the lead of a race. But Campbell Adams is seemingly just eyes forward at this point. 10 laps to go.
The pace is still hot for this group. You know, that was a 2:02.5 for Campbell Adams. Fastest lap of the race is an 02.3. They are still pounding around at speed, not like what Woods and Pierce were doing when it was just those two together and they backed off into the 03s, etc. So Campbell Adams is still leading them at flat chat pace, and they're going with him.
And after all this time, Adams still holds the fastest lap of the race overall at a 2:02.357. Battles throughout the rest of the field have spread out a bit more. There's a big gulf between the cars from 8th to 13th. Interested to see that the car in 13th is Marcus Watson, who's continued to mount that recovery, but of course still with a 10-second penalty to his name. Keeping the inevitable final pit stop for a lot of drivers out of mind for the moment. We'll have to give that a little bit of a hold there as a bit of a
That's
buff draft.
the 72-degree angle V10 block.
That it is. Zach Rattray-White getting a big helping of that in his eardrums.
I'd
Now
prefer a big
Adams.
helping of chocolate block, but, you know, each to their own.
Yeah, or maybe a block of Sargento cheese.
Yes, absolutely. Dean Mackay, another one to watch as well, because he's definitely made his final stop, and we know that he can be quite quick. So someone will pit in front of him, he'll catch some to make some other moves, and we'll see who has to blink when in our top 5. Soon make it a top 7, I reckon. Stuart Ellis is not hanging about back there, and bringing Sam Sutton with him as they go.
So here's the thing, boys. I think out of that top 7, only Damon Woods and Byron Pearce can make it to the end. And so this is what is in my mind right now. If you're Campbell Adams, Zach Rattray-White, and you know that last safety car has gone, right, and essentially the chances now of another safety car are slim to nil. If you know you've got to pit, you've got to go hard, right? You cannot feel safe from here if you know you've got to pit. You just got to go. Does that suck Damon Woods and Byron Pearce into going harder than they want to go, to have to pit as well? Because that's the game they need to play. Because if Damon and Byron don't pit, easy win, right? For those two guys, and everybody else is going to drop back a whole heap of positions as they pit. So can they play them into a a non-fuel saving? Like, can they play them into a fuel guzzling game?
Yeah, good point. It would only be a matter of maybe half a lap's worth of fuel potentially. Yeah, there's quite a few numbers to crunch there, but you are right. There is potential for Woods and Pearce to be pressured into using more fuel than they want. For the moment, Woods is happy to be sitting in the slipstream here. Oh, no he's not. Up the inside into Canada corner, passes Zach Rattray-White for second. Big move for Damon Woods. And potentially Campbell Adams is next on the chopping block unless Rattray-White has a response.
Also note that how many laps a race goes is always a moving target in these time sports car races. And Campbell Adams has been keeping that pace going up front, which keeps the likelihood of the race sort of going that extra lap high. Dropped off just a tiny bit on the lap now just completed. Damon Woods was the fastest on track.
2:02.4 for Woods, and that would have been helped by the mammoth slipstream he got on the run down to Canada Corner. 15 minutes on the clock. And that's a great run out of turn 3 there for Damon Woods. A lot of potential for him to go for it at turn 5 here on Campbell Adams. Potentially, he was just sitting behind and saving fuel for the last few laps, and now he knows that he has got enough fuel to get to the end and has decided it's time to put the hammer down again.
Yeah, 10 laps completed in this stint from Woods. Predictor is 8 more to go. 18 laps is what he did with no safety car in the very first stint of the race. Seemed like it needed a little bit of saving, but we weren't detecting gargantuan amounts of lift and coast as he led the race at times in that stint. So if you see that play out again in this stint, it suggests maybe he spent that 10 laps doing a bit of saving in the pack. Now he can go flat chat, and when he does, clearly one of the fastest drivers we've got. Fastest over 1 lap. He started this race from pole position. Now he is back leading from the front.
And
72 degrees.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Once again, Rattray White's giving Campbell Adams the run here into Canada Corner once again. Adams slinging it into the corner to try and maintain the speed, but he has to give up the position to the Eclipse Aston Martin. And now 2 more Eclipse Aston Martins behind Campbell Adams here. This could be the chance that Byron Pierce has been looking for to get the track position back, make a move back onto the podium. Peter, you've dipped away to get some information. What do you have?
Oh yeah, it's all about fuel numbers, isn't it? I just went and had a chat with Dean Mackay. He's the only person there I can have a good chat with and try and work out what's going on. Dean Mackay pitted on lap 39, one of the last to pit out of the group that we've been watching. And he said to me that he's got enough fuel to do what he needs to do plus 1 lap. And he's short fueled by 2 seconds. That 2 seconds is the difference between his fuel stop and the fuel stop that Damon Woods and Byron Pierce had. And Byron Pierce and Damon pitted 1 lap earlier. So for me, those 2 are good to go. The other guys, Jack Rattray White, lap 35, 3 laps earlier than Damon. Campbell Adams 2 laps earlier than Damon. I can't see them making it green flag all the way to the end on fuel.
All right. We'll see if it works out in that fashion as Owen Coleman gets rolling again after a spin down at the bottom of the hill. Coming up to that location now is our top 7 fight. Looks like we can officially call Stuart Ellis and Sam Sutton a part of this pack now, as their pace has continued to be some of the best in this pack. It's a little bit wide there in the middle of the carousel for Campbell Adams. Gives up some speed in the mid-corner. Gonna bring Byron Pierce a tiny bit closer. Potentially Canada Corner, the braking zone beckoning here. Are we going to see that 72-degree V10 again? No. Byron Pierce is not going to give us that opportunity, David. What he is going to do is get alongside the Lamborghini and move back into 3rd.
Of course, the number of cylinders multiplied by the bank angle. If it's a multiple of 360, you've got an engine that's very easy to balance. Doesn't mean that's always how they are. We're going to have another battle here. Daniel Yeaman was actually the fastest driver on track last lap, so he's put the foot down. Either he's saved the numbers or he's given up on it. One way or the other, he's suddenly really picked up the pace, and it's meant battling with Kane Ryder and moving up to 8th.
Jay was just saying in the background that Yeaman is still fuel saving in the midst of all of that, which is frankly quite impressive. Fastest car in the top 5 was Zach Rattray White, chasing Damon Woods, a 2:02.4, but only a 10th or so between Woods and Rattray White at the front. And they're breaking away now from Pierce, Adams and Morella. Ellis and Sutton have fallen back again slightly. 2:02.9 for Ellis. He hasn't quite been able to... he has been on board with the pace of the drivers in front, but he hasn't kept it up in a consistent run. Seeing the last, one of the first drivers to take the splash and dash to get to the end, Benjamin Wilder, in now 16th place. making his 4th visit to pit lane. Jordan Pianazzola is going to join him in there. Gotta wonder how many more we're going to see.
Well, probably Marcus Watson in not too long, based on the numbers. Probably one of the next I'd expect to see. So I've been doing those numbers in my head, as well as relying on various of the tools that I like to use for calculating strategy. 10 minutes to go right now, at lap times just over 2 minutes, means definitely 5 laps to go at the line for Damon Woods. He'll be completing his 13th lap since his pit stop when he does so. 18 laps in the final stint for Woods. Is it possible?
Good question to ask. Fight between Campbell Adams and Marina Morella have continued to intensify up ahead of these guys. Let's just listen in to Sam Sutton for a bit here, because we're not going to see that opportunity there. Sutton's going to have to come in to get the fuel to the end, and up ahead of him, that's a lap car. So we'll keep an eye on the fight here between Campbell Adams and Marino Morella, as Damon Woods has brought the pace down again. 2:02.3 from the front of the field.
Daniel Yeaman also in, so that's a tiny on the early side. 14 laps in the stint. He's not going to make it to the end, but he's going to get that fuel now. Marcus Watson, who I think I flagged a lap ago was probably due to pit, does so. David Stradamus. Actually, I think you'll find their data-driven insights.
Indeed.
Subscribe to Dave AI.
You must be a rock star.
Yep.
Well, Sam Sutton comes out in 11th spot. And we'll see Yeaman out behind Sam Chapman in 13th. Watson has come into the pit, so has Lockhart Brownlee and Adam Jepson. So it looks like the Orbit Drop Bear Logitech G cars have, for the most part, been unable to work their way any further forward. Ethan Bass, I think, is the big question mark of what could have been in that team. He's down in 25th now, but you got to remember that when he came into the pits for his second stop, he sped on entry, and that really cost him. He pitted again about 9 laps ago, and I think should be good to the end from here, but it's unlikely that he's going to get back into the top 20 from there. So the fight is now between Damon Woods and Byron Pierce to see if they can, number one, go the distance, which we think is likely, number two, fight with each other, and maybe define something different for the lead of the race. In comes Marina Morella and Stuart Ellis. They cannot go any further on their fuel tanks, but Campbell Adams is sticking with it.
4 laps to go by the looks of things. Damon Woods has absolutely put the foot down. Fastest lap of the race, 2 laps in a row. We are getting later into the evening. Track temp significantly cooler now than it was at the start. So if your tyres are in good nick, and you don't need to save too much fuel anymore, and you go flat out, it's happy hour for Damon Woods, who has a more than 1 second lead and should be able to get to the end.
Yeah, unless there's a massive run from Byron Pierce here, or Woods makes a mistake, which is highly unlikely. Woods will potentially have this race wrapped up. Zach Rattray-White and Campbell Adams still with question marks over them. If they don't come in at the end of this lap, I would expect them in another couple of laps' time at most. Out of the pits for the Max Boost car of Kane Ryder, Isaac Curtis also finding his way back out. Same for Jackson Dial. They tried to play the game there. Campbell Adams is dropping off. It looks like his car has given all it has.
So for Adams, brimmed the car at the last stop. Coming to the end of 17 laps in this stint. Yeah, this could be in lap for him this lap or the next. He only went 17 laps in the opening stint that had no safety car. So maybe that's what the Lamborghini does. And if it is 17 laps to a stint, he'll have to come in at the end of this one.
We'll find out in just a few moments as Ellis and Sutton, fresh out of pit lane, will resume their fight for P7. In comes Adams to pit lane, and it looks like Rattray White is in as well. So that just leaves Damon Woods and Byron Pierce with 3 laps remaining to sort out who ultimately wins this one. And with Woods now in the lead by 2 seconds, Pierce is going to need, I think, pace that he doesn't necessarily have in order to regain that gap.
Well, every appearance from Damon Woods that he did his saving in the first part of this run, and doesn't need to do any saving further to this. Byron Pierce's best hope is that Woods has a cough or a splutter coming out of the final corner on the final lap, which is a very costly thing to have happen at this track, specifically its configuration of, from the final corner, you race uphill to the checkered flag. It's not like our beloved Panorama Bathurst or some other tracks. Running out of fuel can still see you cough, coast and splutter to the line. Far more challenging to do here. You've got to have that fuel for the final lap.
Yeah, and the uphill run to the start-finish line. Jet Saragi finds Zach Rattray White for company now that the number 17 has taken their stop, but Saragi is on his 18th lap. Now, we have seen the fuel margin being extended to 19 up to 20 laps, particularly for Woods and Pierce, but I don't know if Saragi is going to be able to do the same thing. He spent much of his time in this last stint with no cars around him.
Last lap in 03.8. Got some quick guys around him now.
Oh, looks like we've lost Ethan Bass, unfortunately. That's technical internet problems for Ethan. He has dropped from the server, and that's a real heartbreak just a few minutes from the end of this race. On board with Marino Morella, as he's fresh out of pit lane with fuel to get to the end. Damon Woods bringing the fastest lap down to a 2:02.1. The gloves are off at the front of the field, and he's extending his gap to now 2.7 seconds over Byron Pierce. What does Morella do here? He's not going to go for it into the final corner. It's far better to hope that Saragi pits, which is exactly what's going to happen there. So despite the pace, strategy not working out for the majority of this field.
And Woods had an even quicker lap 1 or 2 laps ago that maybe had an off track in it, because there's an 01.98 from Woods as he was breaking it open and building that gap. His last lap stands is officially the fastest lap of the race, 02.103. These lap times always sound like they should be a radio station that, you know, plays Imagine Dragons.
Yeah, indeed. Then Jeffrey versus Dean Mackay, meanwhile, for 17th spot. Both of these guys will be able to get to the end. And Mackay will make up another position here. Nice out-braking maneuver into the first turn, moves back to the racing line. Corey Bennett is ahead, and well, Mackay needs to be careful of those off-tracks here at the very end of the race. Could still see a top 16 after the disastrous safety car restart lap.
Yeah, the field spread's not doing him a whole lot of favours with regards to getting a couple more spots back as cars in front of him pit. But he's still been flying along. There's still a few in front of him that might need to take a splash of fuel coming to the white flag. Speaking of, that's what Damon Woods does now, is now he sets a legal lap under the O2.
That's crazy pace. Well, he is going to have some lap traffic to contend with, the Mustang of Matt Webber, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Corey Bennett, though, will now have to make way for Dean Mackay on the inside at the carousel. And it looks like he's going to be letting Ben Jeffrey go as well. Yeah, Bennett, with 17 laps already completed on his stint, maybe he's a bit short on fuel and just needs to save in the slipstream a bit more to the end.
Yeah, Bennett's saving to do this no more stops, but means he's had to let two quicker drivers go by.
Well, the front of the field.
A question: Does he make it?
Yeah, actually, good point there. Stuart Ellis and Sam Sutton. Yeah,
Sam Sutton started his 19th lap, so this might not be a quick one, but he's committed to it.
That he is. Oh, and it's not going to happen for Corey Bennett. He's been unable to save, and that extra lap ultimately putting paid to his drive. But for Damon Woods and Byron Pierce, our top two, actually the gap is extended. Byron Pierce is dropping, and dropping hard. Gap's out to 4 seconds now to Damon Woods, but Damon's not going to be worrying about that. He's going to be focusing on hitting the apex of the final corner and being foot to the floor to the line. Not quite a likes to flag victory. He had his troubles in the middle part of the race, but Damon Woods is going to take full points here from Road America. Fastest lap, pole position, and winning the race. Fantastic drive indeed. Byron Pierce does make it across the line. Campbell Adams, if the strategy was a little bit different, he might have been right up there with Woods and Pierce, but had to take a pit stop in the dying laps of the race. It's still on between Stuart Ellis and Sam Sutton, though. The 6th place is still up for grabs. Some good strategy decisions by Sam Sutton in the early part of the race to get him into the top 10 in the first place. But it looks like that one final position from Stuart Ellis is going to have to wait across the line. Ellis grabs 6th.
Sam Chapman going to hold off Daniel Yeaman. Yeaman took the splash of fuel. Sam Chapman's trying to make 19 laps.
He's done it.
He has.
Perhaps the slipstream from Ryan Bell helped him out there. Jackson Dial, who was battling with Yeaman earlier, coming across the line in 12th. Just ahead of Marcus Watson. Great recovery from Watson there, but considering the 10-second penalty he has to his name, get the feeling that he's going to be falling down a few more positions from there. I reckon... He'll only end up losing one position from that. He'll be classified 14th.
Last couple of cars on the lead lap. Adam Jepson ahead of Paul Heckel. They both seem to have enough fuel to make it to that checkered flag. Pianazzola, Owen Coleman, and Corey Bennett are the last cars to come around. Matt Webber was the first car a lap down.
Bennett didn't put enough fuel in, it looks like. He's coughing to the line. Come on, Corey, you can make it. The speed is dropping, but the start-finish line will come just in time. Whew. Wipe the sweat off your brow.
You know what it would have taken for him to have lost a position there?
Going backwards.
Yes, he was the last car left on the lead lap. The car in the position behind him had already taken the checkered flag a lap down.
Well, there's your top 10 in the end. Damon Woods, 4 seconds ahead of Byron Pierce, with Campbell Adams completing the podium there for Team Max Boost. A solid drive from Campbell Adams in the end, despite having to take that extra pit stop versus our top 2. Zach Rattray White and Marina Morella round out your top 5. Stuart Ellis beats Sam Sutton to the line by 0.4. Sam Chapman ahead of Dan Yeaman by just over 0.2 of a second. And Kane Ryder will round out the top 10 there, gaining 2 spots.
Isaac Curtis finishes 11th, Jackson Dial in 12th, Marcus Watson 13th over the line, with a penalty there, I believe. Chet Saragi might benefit from that. Lockhart Brownlee 15th, Dean Mackay in 16th, a double whammy of massive damage for him. But he fought on, tried to realign his strategy to pick up some spots later on in the race. And then Ben Jeffrey in 17th, Benjamin Wilder in 18th, Adam Jepson in 19th, and Paul Heckel in 20th.
Heckel making it up 16 positions there. Pianazzola, Coleman, and Bennett are your last finishers on the lead lap. Matt Webber, the first car a lap down, and he's joined by quite some company. Trent Allen, Jack Stone, Alan Dawson, Ryan Bell, Dylan Shepherd, and Jack Bird to round out your top 30.
Then connection or computer issues, it looked like, for Ethan Bass, being disconnected from the server with 4 laps to go. Put him still ahead of Trent Stapleton, Kurt Chapman 11 laps back, Brock Kelly 14 laps, Eli Donaldson 14 laps, Clint Smith 20. And then you've completed less than half of the leaders, 56 laps if you're in this territory. Aidan Rankin, Matt Bailey, and Harry Dodds.
Rick Provenzale out very early, as was Mark Healy, and Leith McClymont did not take to the start. The safety car ultimately being classified ahead of him due to the one intervention that we had over the course of this race. It's time for post-race interviews, and the first driver to join us is Damon Woods. Well, if we just look at the numbers and the results, pole, fastest lap, win, simple as, right? Probably not, Damon. What was your perspective?
Yeah, it doesn't tell the true story, does it? He obviously got shuffled back a little bit after the final stop, but Byron and I weren't too fast. We knew that we were going to be good to the end. So, yeah, it was a matter of just make sure we get our number so we can push flat out to the end. And then as soon as I did that, I went for the lead and built that gap that I needed. But yeah, it was an interesting race, but in the end, the fuel save game paid off, and yeah, we went up with P1.
Yeah, it's certainly a result that you need to keep your championship lead going. Zach Rattray-White finishing off the podium in this one, having to take an extra pit stop. That'll be a slight points advantage for you, but the pace from Byron Pierce and Campbell Adams was certainly something to think about, and something that will be factoring into future rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I know BP's really, really quick. His first round was a bit touch and go with how he went about putting the car on the fence, but yeah, I mean, I know how fast he is, and Campbell's proven as well in official racing and even OSR 12 hour that he's got some really, really good pace. So yeah, going towards the end of the season, I think there's going to be plenty of guys that are matching the pace, but in the end, you know, racecraft is a big thing as well, and strategy. So we'll see where we end up, but yeah, looking forward, I think we're in a good, strong position heading into the final 2 rounds.
Yeah, first of those final 2 rounds is Le Mans, and that's going to be another track where slipstreaming and fuel saving, I think, will be fully on your mind.
Yeah, I mean, the Aston is proven to be quite fast at Le Mans, so that was half the reason we picked it going into this season. Is we know it's good at Le Mans and good at Spa, and they're the 2 rounds we close out the championship with. So yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit of fuel save race as well, but in the end, if we got good car pace, we might as well just drive away. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what the gaps are like, but yeah, we'll play it by ear and give it our best shot.
Excellent stuff, Damon. Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Big thanks to Motorsport Simworld. They're obviously title sponsor for this series, but also on board with me for this season of PAL. So big thanks to them, and also these guys, the guys in the comms box, and Jay for the cams as well. So cheers, boys. We'll catch you for the next one.
That we shall. Damon Woods, your winner of round 3 at Road America. Joining him on the podium was Byron Pierce, who finishes second. David Haynes has caught up with him.
Yep, working our way through the podium here, joined by Byron Pierce. Talk us through the strategy then, because obviously that safety car just after everyone's first stop gave everyone some options.
Yeah, the moment that safety car came out, we were kind of just questioning the first couple of laps after green flag, just can we make it if we do this, if we do this? So a lot of that middle stint, we're just trying to figure it out. And once we knew, this is a real shot, you probably could have seen we really started backing off and just trying to make sure we could make it, because obviously, if you stop 1 lap less, everything's a lot easier for you. And we saved the extra lap in the first stint, which we're targeting to do because the overcut's always good to have. So, yeah, it was just a case of just trying to get the extra lap each stint to bring us towards the end.
Tyres, old tyres, cold tyres, new tyres. It seems like going that one lap longer on warm tyres immediately into the safety car had some benefits.
Yeah, that Lambo for Campbell on that restart was a bit of a rocket, like straight away. This Aston, for me personally, is a bit of a struggle on cold tyres. And he just got to me so quickly, so I just had to let him go. Since we kind of figured that they might not be able to make it. So I was just kind of just let him go. He had good pace, so it's just easier just to sit behind.
Well, it's great to see pace from you, but also that strategic thinking. It's what a 2-hour race like this should deliver. And it's delivered you 2 positions gained to a podium and a well-earned second place. And your pit crew got to see you one less time.
Yeah, yep, it was a lovely night, great results. I've been improving, since the first round, and hopefully we can just keep the momentum going.
Well, best of luck for future rounds. Anyone you'd like to thank?
I'd like to thank Eclipse for helping work out the set for this car. The car felt pretty good, and obviously to Damon, Zach, and Reno, we're all discussing strat together, so we're all just trying to work together and push forward.
Beauty, congrats.
Thank you.
Byron Pierce there from second spot, and in third in the end was Campbell Adams for Team Max Boost. The Sol Lamborghini up the front, dominated by Aston Martins, but it was a bit of a risky strategy initially, Campbell, but it all came down to the safety car there. It seemed like, despite your efforts, not quite enough fuel to get to the end in the front.
Yeah, look, I knew halfway through that race that I could tell when Damon and Byron were just saving that much fuel. I knew that it was just a battle for the lead for third. I knew the win was out of the question. So, look, I'm happy with that. I feel like I felt very out of position being surrounded by all those Astons. But I enjoyed it. The Lambo was great out of those slow corners. So that definitely helped me. But no, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Going to have a few slow corners to deal with at Le Mans next round, but plenty of long straights. And from what Damon's told us, the Aston should be very good at Le Mans. How do you think the Lambo's going to hold up?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I haven't done any laps of Le Mans ever. So I am very green on that. So we'll see what happens.
Well, take good care over those curbs at the Ford chicane, and we'll see what you can do, Campbell. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I want to thank my whole team, Team Max Boost. They've helped me a heap to get to this point, and they've helped me a lot.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, Campbell. Hopefully we're seeing you on the podium again next round in the French countryside.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
And that will conclude our driver interviews here and bring this show to a close. David, of course, the Circuit de 24 du Mans is going to play host to the next round of the championship on the 24th of May. It's going to be a massive one indeed. A place that a lot of these cars are familiar with, especially since WEC started using GT3 regulations for its slower class. And I think the drivers will be well familiar with this little strip of tarmac as well.
Yeah, absolutely iconic, but iconic for its high speeds and its slipstreaming. I think it will present a very similar challenge to Road America, but perhaps with on steroids.
Oh yeah, expect some massive straight line speeds, expect action aplenty, and some big passes to be made into the chicanes on the Mulsanne Straight. Hope that you can join us in just over a month's time for round 4 of the Motorsport Simworld GT3 Open Championship by Premier Endurance League. Big thanks everyone for joining us on this stream, whether you came from YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Kick. Thank you very much, and we hope that we can catch you again next time. My name is Reese Gardner. David Haynes alongside me in the commentary box. Peter Baxter dipping in from time to time with his pit reports and inside information. Jay Kennedy behind the scenes, pressing all the buttons and bringing you these live pictures. We'll see you all again next time on SimSpeed TV.
This is where drivers get faster. At Motorsport Simworld, it's not just about racing, it's about refining your craft. Casual sessions with your mates to competitive leagues and unforgettable corporate events, plus coaching that helps you find time where it matters. Train smarter, drive better at Motorsport Simworld.